Welcome back to the podcast. We got Jon Kooley, one of my favorites ever. So thank you for coming on. And maybe we can just start with what we were just talking about, how you don't ever use Instagram.
Yeah, I mean, it's real sad. I'll go back to like look at it and I'm like, fuck, I haven't posted anything for, I don't know, a year or more maybe. And then I certainly don't, I don't check the messages because it's like, but I've also been accused of not answering texts or emails. So I'm kind of like, I don't know.
Why the pull away from Instagram? Was it boring to you? The feed just start irritating you? Did it feel like it was just fake? Like, what was the pull away?
I mean, I still check it. Like, I still like check it. I guess I'm just not engaged. I just like, I watch like skate and snowboard videos and like see what my friends are up to. But I'm not like trying to like, nobody wants to see what I'm doing right now. That's for sure. I just work in an office all day.
I kind of like the ghost. I have a couple friends, one in particular, his name's Adam, and he hasn't posted anything since like 2017, but he's on it every day. And when we're working together, he'll be like, yo, you see this post? I'm like, I didn't think you were on there. He's like, no, I just ghost, dude. I'm just on there like ghost style. Like, I don't want to exist on Instagram. I just like seeing what people are up to. I don't comment. I don't subscribe to anything. Like,
I guess that's kind of where I'm at. Like I follow the things I like and pay attention, but I don't really interact,
Maybe we could take it from what you were just saying there, that you're doing an office job now. So what's Jon's life like right now? What are you doing?
I'm design director at Fox Racing.
What? That's a big boy job right there, boss. Sick.
Yeah, it's pretty wild. And it's cool because it's kind of like broaden my perspective on like sports and in general, and like things that I'm into personally now have changed or evolved. So it's been cool. Like, I think I was going there to do something very specific because I was like real into like street, like Harleys and stuff. And they wanted to do like a street line with like, I don't know, kind of the same concept as L1, where it was like more like integrated, like hidden technology, hidden abrasion resistance. And that's kind of like what got me going there. And then like I kind of just like fell in love with the brand, fell in love with mountain biking and moto, and it's just been super cool. And obviously my career is just kind of gone from there.
It seems like your career has evolved with your interests, though. You go from snowboarding, and then it seemed like at the tail end of your career, you got really into design and like attention to detail, you could almost say. And then you go into this L1 world where you start working for an outerwear company, designing like clothes that fit snowboarders who I'd say who have good style, like Joe Sexton and stuff like that. And now you're going into this other process, which is like your newfound love for like, well, I wouldn't say newfound. I feel like you've always incorporated like moto and bikes, even with your snowboard stuff, but now you ended up there. So it's pretty sick that you've just kind of constantly worked through different jobs, but it's always with something that you kind of align with.
Yeah. Actually, I never really thought about that. I was just like, I like designing things. And one thing that Fox has is like a broad spectrum of product, from like hard goods to soft goods and a bunch of different sports that they cater to. So it's kind of like I get my hands in a lot of pots, and it makes it real fun. I don't know.
I'm kind of imagining with L1 that you would have like a lot of creative control, and going into a company as big as Fox. Do they like just leave you alone, or is it hard to get your ideas to fruition or like, how is that?
I mean, I think right now, over the past couple of years, especially with the pandemic and everything, like, mountain biking has just exploded. You can't get anything, can't get bikes, can't get parts, can't get apparel. And that kind of goes like across the board for almost any outdoor industry right now. But I would say during that, there's been like definitely a lot of freedom because like it and also like design leadership has changed, including myself. So it's just been like, it's becoming like more of a design led brand where we're kind of like focused on giving people like premium product that is like, I would say it's starting to stray, and I can't say this like brand wide, because like moto is moto. You like if I'm talking about like a Fox Moto kit, you know what that is, but the graphics are like getting more elevated. But the mountain bike product is getting more technical and more sophisticated. The palettes are getting more sophisticated, and the expectation on product is like rising along with price points in some cases. So there is a lot of freedom in general, and I wouldn't say I have complete creative control by any means, but the VP of design does have like complete creative control, and he is like he often tells me like, I need you to push as hard as you can until you cross a line, and we've crossed some lines. So like that's kind of my job.
I kind of like that though. Like I've never worked in an office or have really done anything outside of snowboarding, but I have heard on a lot of podcasts and books that I've read and stuff like that, that like big CEOs of companies or people who just own the company, like when they hire somebody and challenge them, because if you don't have anybody that's challenging you, you know, I think that it's easy for your company to like kind of not see the bigger picture sometimes, because everyone's afraid to like, everyone's trying to make the boss happy.
Yeah.
And I don't really think that that's where you get a brand that's kind of creative and is going in the right direction. It seems like, I don't want to pinpoint certain brands, but I've definitely worked with brands before where you could see that everybody was just trying to make the boss happy. Therefore, nobody was speaking their mind. Therefore, when they were getting like rider feedback on gear, they were too afraid to go and tell like the big boss that like these fits are whack and we should experiment with this. It was just like whatever the boss said went. And I could say that it didn't end great for those companies.
Yeah, I've seen a few of those, but we're fortunate enough that like the boss in general is like is eager to push as design is, you know.
That's rad. Well, I'm happy to hear that you're well, I mean, are you happy with the job? That's the biggest thing. Do you like it?
Oh yeah, it's been amazing. It's been a wild. I've been out here for 5 years. It's been a wild ride, but it's been awesome.
And here is California?
Yeah, I'm in California, Southern California.
It's and like how do you do California? When California comes into my mind, I'm like, it's the most expensive place ever, it seems like. And like, how do you even afford to like, I don't know, like what's a house where you're around? Like what's like a 2-bedroom house or a 3-bedroom house with like 2 bath?
Man, I don't know. I guess like it kind of depends on the city, but I mean, in general, you're not really getting into anything for less than like a 2-bedroom, 1 bath, like 1,000 square foot, 1,200 square foot house, like a smaller home would probably be like 750 to 1.2, depending on that, or more depending on the area. But you're not getting anything less than like 750 now.
Jeez, like that's got to be like, you know, to all the kids that are listening here right now, it's like, damn, you gotta, if I was a kid right now, and I know that you should just like historically just buy things and get your 10% return, just buy a bunch of NFTs and pray. And just hope that it works out. Be like, I was listening to the snowboard podcast with Jon Kooley and Jody, and I went out and bought a bunch of NFTs and a bunch of Bitcoin, and now I'm fucking rich.
I mean, I was talking to one of my friends in Salt Lake, and he's like, the market's exploding. Like, I'll never be able to buy a house. And it's like, fuck. I was thinking about, because I bought my first house in Salt Lake for like 150,000 or something. Like, and that's that was probably like 2008, just before everything like went wild.
Oh, that's when you're probably still getting those Santa Cruz royalties for the Cookie Monster board.
Oh yeah, I think that was the first royalty check I ever got, and I was like, "This is the most money I've ever seen in my life." And it really wasn't that much money, but it was like a check with like a big number or big for me.
It seemed like it was like 20 years ago. Can you specify the amount, just for curiosity's sake?
I'd have to. I think it was like maybe like 30 grand or 40 grand or something. But like I had like I was like stoked if I had like $600 in my bank account, like I'm like, all right, like I could definitely go to Taco Bell. I could definitely afford gas. Like I got my truck payment. And my rent was like $600 a month. Like it didn't matter, like I didn't make any money. I just, but I also didn't have any expenses.
Okay, so maybe we can throw this back just because I'm curious. I know one of our listeners, Sean Lucy, doesn't like when I ask this question, but I'm going to do it anyway. So because I was reading an old interview and it said that you grew up in Germany, if I'm correct.
Yeah, well, kind of. It's a long story. I was born in Portland. I lived there till I think I was 4, and then I moved to Germany. My dad was in the military, and I lived there till I was like 12 or 13. And then
dang, so you actually have like legitimate childhood memories from Germany, like you lived there. That's sick.
Yeah. It's pretty wild. And then I would go back a bunch, like riding for Nitro and working for L1. I'd go back to Germany all the time, like pretty much during my snowboard career. It was like at least once a year.
And did you maintain any friendships from 4 to 12 and you still have them today?
No.
I mean, didn't have Facebook back then.
Yeah, I couldn't even, like, if you asked me, can I remember a friend from back then? I don't think I could.
Kimmy. But you ended up moving to Alaska at one point too.
Yeah, from Germany to Alaska.
And was that because your dad for military reasons again, or just because he was like, we got to get the fuck out of Germany?
No, I think he would have stayed there forever if he could. But yeah, the military just kind of moves you around. And my dad was very smart. So he used the military, joined the military so he could get his master's and his doctorate, and then just bailed out of the military. So he kind of just like used it for education and a way of like seeing the world. And when he was done, he was like, I'm out of here.
What did he take for schooling afterwards and get his master's degree in?
Solid question. I don't know. I don't think I know.
Solid question.
I don't know what he has his doctorate in either. Damn, I'm a dick, dude. That's
you got to call him up, man. You got to get that down.
Well, in all fairness, I was talking to him. He only uses Facebook Messenger, and I don't use Facebook. Oh, like if I don't use Instagram, I really don't use Facebook. It like basically doesn't exist. But Facebook Messenger is the only way I can get a hold of him. So he'll text me on it, and he was like, "Hey, I want to give your brother I want to give your brother your number because he's got a new number." And I was like, "Okay, give it to him. Like, what's the big deal?" And he's like, and this is like, it's been a while. Like he lives in the Philippines. That's the Facebook Messenger situation.
Oh, okay.
So and he's like, "Well, I don't have your phone number." And I'm like, "What are you talking about? You're my dad. You don't have my phone number?" So I had to like text him my phone number or Facebook message him my phone number so he could pass it on to my brother. And I'm like, what is happening here? Apparently everybody's as good at communication as I am.
It runs in the genes.
Yeah.
Do you remember like growing up in Alaska? I'm surprised that you kind of embarked on this like street rail urban jibbing shit where you live in somewhere like Alaska. Did you live near like Valdez, or where was like your location in Alaska?
Oh no, I was in Eagle River. It's like kind of a suburb outside of Anchorage. And we had like, we didn't really hit rails when I was younger. We had like a smaller mountain that was like just like 30 minutes away from Eagle River that had like a military side and like a public side, but which doesn't make sense because it was all you could go to either side you wanted. Basically, there was like 2 or 3 lifts, and one was military only, so they'd like close it down for training. But they did build like a tabletop there, so it's like, I mean, this thing is like, everybody talks about the Midwest being like kind of icy and flat. This was like icy and steep. Like it didn't snow very much there.
Icy and steep is way worse.
Yeah, it was I think about, I saw some of my Alaska friends like a little while ago, and we were talking about it. And it's just like, I mean, there's a good, really good mountain, like probably an hour and a half from Eagle River, Alyeska, which is like full big mountain, cat tracks, jumps, powder. And then there's like an amazing place, Turnagain Arm, where you can go build big powder jumps. Like we filmed on them. A bunch of people have filmed on them in like Love Hate. I think it was the first time we like started filming out there. But there's like good like backcountry snowboarding. So we would ride that like at night after school, the Arctic Valley Alpenglow stuff that was close by. But we didn't ever hit handrails. Like there was like one wooden rail that we would like hit on our way down to the bottom of the lift, but I didn't hit rails until I moved to Salt Lake.
And when did you move to Salt Lake?
I think the first time was 99.
And out of curiosity, why did you move to Salt Lake? Just because you started loving snowboarding, or like what was the big, like that seems like a big move.
It was like, I was kind of in a weird spot because I was going to University of Alaska Anchorage, and then two of my friends were just like, hey, we're moving to Salt Lake. We're gonna one was gonna go to school at University of Utah, and the other one was like, I just want to get out of here for a little bit, go snowboarding in Utah. Because like, I mean, back then it was like Utah was like the best, you know, like it was in every magazine, like Jeremy, JP, it was like, oh, we gotta go to Utah. And I was like, I talked to my dad and I was like, I don't know what I want to do. I'm just taking my generals and like kind of just trying to figure it out. And I was like, I'm going to take this semester off and go and move to Utah and live out there for a little bit and go snowboarding. And he was like, right on. Like, he's like, I wish I had done that when I was your age. So like, you should do it. He's like, school will always be around, but that won't. And I'm like, cool. So we moved out there and like, just like rode Brighton every day pretty much. And then started like we would find like the rails that like JP and Jeremy and like all those guys were hitting, which were like we would find the convenient ones like Mueller Park and there was like this other, I don't actually know what this rail is called, but it's like on the way up to Brighton. It's just off to the left. It's super low. And that was, I think, my first handrail ever because the stairs are covered in snow. It was like, I think we actually started like halfway down. We built, which in retrospect is kind of sketchy. Like
Super sketchy.
on the stairs. So you're like downhill to a down rail is weird. But that like warmed us up to trying the whole rail. But that, yeah,
it's
that
like
was
way more dangerous instead of you should have just hit the whole rail.
Yeah,
Back to the way that you were like, you grew up riding in Alaska though. Steep pitch with a steep jump. That's kind of like how that rail would have been set up. Like super steep in run to like donkey kicker.
And I'm talking no shape to the mountain. It was just like, it's one straight face, super windblown. Arctic Valley, the name like kind of like says it all. Like it was super fun with all my friends, but man, I don't think I would go ride it again right now. I feel like I've been spoiled too much.
And what was the vibe like in Salt Lake? And like, you know, what was the energy? You get to Salt Lake and, you know, JP and Jeremy are like probably, well, I'm not going to speak for you, but probably your idols. And you go there and you're trying to get out after it. Like you're riding the park. Are you seeing those people and are you going to Milo and seeing like, you know, the scene?
Mm-hmm.
And is it dope? And, or is it are you kind of disappointed in it or what?
No, it was cool. I mean, like, I think we were just there just to snowboard, you know, like that was our goal. But I think my first ride up Crest, like the main the quad that goes up to the top. I think like the first time I got on the chairlift, I was riding up and I saw JP, Jeremy, Devin, Bjorn all coming down. And Devin, like there's like this little like kind of roller in the middle of the run, and Devin does like just does a backside 180 off it, and I was like, oh my god, so sick. Like it just like, I don't know, you know, the way Devin does backside 180, it's like the most epic thing ever. So he does that. And I was like, oh, I definitely have to go do a backside 180 off that. And then they cut into this little trail and there was a wall hit and Bjorn did like a frontside 180 melon off it. And I was just like, oh, this is so sick. Like they just had like cool style. And they were like, it wasn't like they were trying to like do like the hardest stuff while they were taking runs with, you know, they were just taking runs with their friends, but it looked so cool. It made me like I was always attracted to that, like not like the most flips or the most spins, but like just look cool, you know? I don't know.
Yeah, totally. You could just say tasteful.
Yeah.
Just like, yeah, I don't really want to see the butter switchback 9 when we're riding a lap. I'd rather see the homie just do like a switchback 1, no grab, and just be feeling it and riding out in the pow a couple turns.
Totally. So that was, so I basically just rode around Brighton trying to emulate those dudes. And I pretty much, I don't think I like did more than like a 540 or anything. I think I was mainly hung up on those 2 tricks I saw: frontside 180 melon and backside 180 no grab off of whatever I could find.
Those are 2 epic tricks. And I feel like it's 2 staples. Like when I think of melon, I think of Bjorn. And when I think of back 1 no grab, I think of Devin.
Yeah. Yeah, me too.
What you eventually, I'm imagining kind of soon after, you get like the opportunity of a lifetime to film for like Shakedown, but there's a period of time before then. And I'm imagining you're not just coming down from Alaska and being like, yo, I want to be pro. It's like you're just going down with your homies to go boarding, it seemed like. So where did this whole spark of like, I kind of want to take a shot at this come from?
It was kind of like a wild ride. So like Utah, that move to Utah was temporary. I was going there for the winter. I think we went like winter semester, so my buddy could go to school, and me and my other friend just like rode Brighton every day. And then and we would go build jumps at Grizzly Gulch and stuff. Because I think we had a weekday pass or something. We couldn't afford a full pass. So and we lived like I don't remember exactly. I think we lived in Fort Union or something. So like, I guess pretty close to the mouth of the canyon. We lived in like a little bit sketchier spot the next time around, but that one was temporary. I think we were there for like maybe 6 months. And then I went home and like started working to make more money so I could go back because I knew I wanted to do it again. And then I was talking to Jason Borgstead. You remember Jason Borgstead?
I do.
So he was obviously from Alaska, and he's like, oh, you need to come to Tahoe. Like the park is epic at Squaw. Like you need to spend a winter out there. And I was like, okay. Went to Squaw, worked all summer and saved up some money. Then I went to Squaw and realized, because he was a pro snowboarder, he was never around. It was just like either me by myself, or like I had another friend, Chris Bombeck, who at the time we both moved out there because we're like, oh, this will be cool. Well, I didn't love, like, I would say the snowboard scene in Utah was a little bit more inclusive. Like a lot of people were there and just excited about snowboarding, and Squaw felt like it was like more like training camp or something. There was 3 tabletops in a row that were perfect, and it was epic. And I literally just rode those 3 tabletops. They were bigger at the time. And I just rode those all day, every day, and learned every trick, you know? Still no rails really. And I think I got, I don't know, the timeline's a bit foggy. I'm not going to lie to you. It's a little.
Oh, for sure it would be. I can only imagine, like, you know, opening the vault when you haven't even talked about this stuff that often. You're like, was that the same year? So
but I know I just lapped those jumps, lapped them.
What's like a vintage Kooley line from those jumps that you would have been like pretty proud on back in the day?
I definitely would end it with a backside 9 on the last jump, because it was like right when I kind of like learned how to like spin over a 720, and it was on accident because I would overshoot those jumps all the time. But it would probably be like, I can't really think of the first jump. It was probably like a setup trick, like a switch backside 180, or I really loved switchback 3 tail grabs, like switch tail grabs.
Oh yeah, you had a really good one in Love Hate, not to cut you off.
I love doing that on those. I remember that. So I probably would do one of those, and then do like a switch front cork and then a back 9. And that would be like, I would probably just do that like over and over and over again. And
what year kind of like, is this like 98 or something, or
this would be like 2000 probably.
Okay.
So I was like 20 years old, and just like lapping that thing. And that was kind of I think I got to shoot photos with like, I went out with Borgstead a couple times and shot some photos and met some cool people. I think I was in 411 Snow. I think I filmed like a trick for that, maybe. But it was kind of the most productive thing for me, was like lapping those jumps and learning all sorts of new tricks, which I don't know if some of them I probably never even filmed, but I definitely honed in jumping those 3 tabletops, that's for sure. And then we would escape and go to Utah and ride with our friends that were still out there. So my friends, that they moved out there and just stayed out there. They were like, we're never going back to Alaska. So we'd go stay with them, ride powder, like build jumps. And then we'd go to Montana, where my other buddy was from, and do the same thing with like ride powder and build backcountry jumps. And it was that, I remember that year being kind of like really awesome, like to go from the park to like the backcountry and try the same tricks. And like the learning curve in the backcountry was pretty wild. But it was fun. And I remember that being kind of like a time where I was like, oh, I want to be back in Utah. Like the park jumps were like, whatever, it was fun, but I want to be riding powder. So like moved back to Alaska, worked for another like summer, back to Utah, and never left, kind of deal.
And then how did the whole opening of like film and sponsorship, did it just come because you were like the local kid that was kind of crushing it and you got kind of noticed, or?
Well, kind of. That the year I moved back, so it's got to be 2001 now. When I moved back, I ended up getting Jesse Burtner, who made like all of like the Think Tank movies and stuff, and was like a big advocate for me. So he got me on K2. Kevin English was the team manager back then, and I got like some boards and stuff, and I was like, this is fucking awesome. Like I get free snowboards, and I was on Sessions clothing. So I would like, I was just filming for Jesse's video for Think Tank, or I think at the time that was probably called JB Deuce Productions, like Jason Borgstead, Jesse Burtner. And then I got invited to go to Super Park, or dude, I don't remember. I did something. Oh, no. Yeah, I did do that. I did Super Park, which I like in retrospect, that was fucking wild that I was at a Super Park. I probably hit like the smallest jump at Super Park and just kind of hiked
and back overshot and just back nined it, and everyone was stoked, and you're like, I'm used to this shit.
I don't know. I never loved park jumps that much. I was always like a little like sketched out overshooting them.
I had like a few years where I liked them, and then as soon as I got like into my later 20s and you knuckle them when you're not a child anymore or overshoot, it just goes from being fun to so shitty. And then if you bruise your heel, which was a common occurrence, you're like really like 4 weeks of the most pathetic injury, and everyone's like, yo, look, you can't do anything because you have a bruised heel. And I'm like, I just like tapped myself on park jumps at one point. Like I liked like a 30-40 footer, but as soon as we get into like legit like bigger jumps or super park jumps, like Oh yeah. And the reason why is because I went to a super park and I needed to tap myself out. I was like, okay, went there and spun for a few years, and then I was like, I'm done this.
Oh man, I think this was my first and only super park, but I think the smallest jump or the jump that I liked the best was like 80 feet. And I was like, and I was so scared to straight air it. So I would just do like, just start spinning over it. And I'm like, this is wild. There's no calculation in it. It's just like, I'm like, I don't want to, I'm also very scared of heights. So I didn't want to like see how high I was in the air or how far I had to go or anything. So I just like do like a back five or something off of it to test out the jump.
Oh man, I'm like, I feel like you're inside my head as you speak of these stories. It's like totally the same thing. There would be the big jump in Wisp Park when I was like 18 or 19. And I remember just being like too scared to straight air it. And I would just start spinning frontside because I was most comfortable with that. I was like, I might do a 5, 7, or maybe a 9. Like,
It's kind of a surprise depending on how big the jump is. You're like, I don't know. I mean, that's how I learned back nines. It's like, oh, this was bigger than I expected.
but yeah, keep on track for like how this whole like I just like to me when I was a kid where you blew up on the scene and it was like big, like you get in Shakedown. I'm just like, where the fuck did this guy come from? Like I had never even heard of you, and I feel like I had every magazine at that time and I read everything. And I feel like maybe you were at like a Red Bull heavy metal contest or something, maybe. I don't
No,
know.
I did. So what happened? Like, so that like, let's call it the second year in Utah, 2001. So like a little background. I loved skateboarding. I'd been skateboarding like for forever. So, and when we started hitting rails, it was like, all we wanted to do was emulate like the cool tricks that people were doing in skateboarding at the time. So I would, like after we started hitting more and more rails, that year we found rail gardens, which we didn't know existed. And it was so epic. At that time, nobody went there. It was like pretty much like myself and my friends from Alaska, and we were there. I met Hebel that year at Rail Gardens. I think I met him previously, but like he would come ride Rail Gardens a lot, and then his group of friends from East Coast, and we were just like, that was kind of our little group,
That vibe must have been sick. Kids, and you're obsessed with snowboarding at that point, and everyone that's at the spot you like totally see eye to eye with. You're like, I will die for snowboarding. I cannot wait to learn a new trick today. Oh, that energy is sick.
It was wild because we were getting bored because I think we would rifle through like the basics, like front board, backlit, switch front board, switch backlit. Those were like we always wanted to go backwards because at that time we kind of thought it wasn't very cool to like do like board slides or something. I don't know what the mentality was, but so once we got those 4 down, it was like starting to try to spin onto the rails. And I was like, I wonder, because people were doing like regular like blunt slides, or like kind of trying to get back on their like foot and tail. And I was like, man, it'd be so cool to do like a front blunt on a snowboard. And so me and my buddy went down to there's like the 16 that everybody hits, like the longer rail with like the good run in. And I started trying it on that and just like kind of inching my way. And then Mikey LeBlanc caught wind of it. Oh, it's because I had the K2 photographer, Kevin Zacher, which he was good friends with Mikey. And he's like, hey, I'm like shooting this kid at Rail Gardens who's like doing front blunts down the rail, and it's wild. And then Mikey came out and I met him and I was like, what is happening right now? And he's like, hey, you want to go film with us? Like take you to a couple spots in Salt Lake, and we're going to hit some handrails. And I was like, at this point, I pretty much had only hit rail gardens, like I didn't. So I went out with them for a couple of days, got absolutely nothing. Like I would just front board everything. This was all in like, I was like, I don't know what to do. I didn't understand like how to film a video part, and I wasn't filming a video part. I'd come out for like a day. But then like the winter was ending. I was going to have to go back to Alaska to make more money to come back. And then my team manager, Kevin English was like, hey, I can get you a job at High Cascade if you want to coach up there. But it was like, there was like a month gap. I ran out of money. There was like maybe like 2 months of a gap. Anyway, there was a little bit of time where I was homeless for 2 months in Portland because I didn't really have any money and I had no place to live. And I was waiting for this job to start at High Cascade. And I was sleeping on Corey Grove's couch, who was the sessions team manager at the time, and Kevin English, who was, actually I wasn't staying at Kevin English's house, but I was staying with Corey, staying with Scotty Whitlake sometimes. Like, it was just like, I was just kind of like roaming around. Like I had nothing to do. And I can't remember his name right now. One of the filmers for Kingpin lived in for, I don't know what that Happy Hour. I guess it was Happy Hour.
Yeah. 2002.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Okay. So my time frame is a little wonky.
Or maybe it was Happy Hour 2003. I feel like it's 2002 or 2001. Maybe I'm off. Ben Balluck's going to listen to this and hate me. He's going to be like, it was 2002, you idiot, or whatever.
Anyway, this is 2002. So maybe my time frame, like this was in 3 years, I think. And so anyway, I'm homeless. I find all these places that I can eat for like $3 a day. Like there was this like movie theater that served dollar slices of pizza, and I could like get 2 pieces of pizza and then I'd sneak into a movie. And that was like how I like spent my days. And I just kind of like sneak into a bunch of movies, and then I'd go like see some friends. One of my friends' girlfriends worked at this bar that was nearby. I think it was called Chopsticks or something. And they also served Chinese food. She would give me free Chinese food. Yeah, it had to have been 2001 because I was 20. I had just turned 21, so I was able to drink. So I'd get like pay for like a dollar PBR and get free Chinese food and hang out, you know. So I was living pretty cheap for a little while there and kind of sleeping on random people's couches. And then but I also took, so they were like, hey, you want to film some rails? And I'm like, dude, it's summer. There's no snow around. And they're like, well, we're going to get a U-Haul and we're going to bring snow into Portland. And I was like, will it last that long? And they're like, as long as you're quick. So I'd go like, we'd go up, or I don't know if I ever made the drive up to Hood. I think they just like picked me up when they had snow in the back of the truck. And then they'd take me to a handrail and they'd be like, here you go. Like, what do you think? And I'm like, okay. So like all my first tricks in Happy Hour, the first ones I filmed were in like 2 or 3 days. I went to Meadows and front boarded the Mount Hood Meadows, like kind of double rail, like Scotty and Corey Smith like slung me into it. It was before like dropping ramps existed.
Oh man, totally remember this now. Because I totally spaced that you were in Happy Hour.
But that was like, I think that one I got a cover on Transworld for that front board. And it was like, there's that, like, there's other rails. There's like one, oh no, I got like two covers that in that short, like 3-day window. There was like a pleasure cover for this back lip on this other rail in Portland somewhere. And then that front board at Meadows. And then I think I like board slid a kink somewhere else in Portland. And I don't know what else, but there was only a handful of tricks, handful of like times we went out. And then I started coaching at High Cascade for 1 season and almost got fired repeatedly because all I would do was snowboard and not like coach the kids, because I also had no clue what I was doing. I was like, I don't know what these kids want.
I'll add to that, because I was coaching at camp forever, and my first year is kind of getting some traction in Canada. and like snowboarding, it was so hard for me to wrap like how to coach kids. And I just wanted to snowboard on the rails myself, and all my heroes were everywhere. So like I'm getting mentored by like my heroes. So I want to snowboard with them, but these kids want to ride with me. And I'd like the dynamic. I remember the first couple of years, I was just like, I got to ditch these kids. I need to go and snowboard with, Simone Chamberlain's here and Chris Duffy. Like I need to hike this rail with Duffy.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally.
That's exactly. I mean, I don't know. I don't know if it was like I do remember like snowboarding with Blaze, like hitting a jump with him, and then like definitely having my friends there, like Jesse Bertner and Hebel came up and snowboarded or maybe that was the next.
If you don't mind, maybe just a little bit on like the first couple times you met Hebel and stuff, because I feel like for him, I mean, you too, both of you guys, but at that time, he was kind of like a freak of nature with talent. And like you were saying with the whole trick selection, it seems to me like you guys saw eye to eye. Like you were like, we should do switchback lips. We should learn front blunts. So like, what was it like kind of boarding with that homie when your first couple times you met him?
It was fucking wild, dude. Like we weren't learning tricks. I was learning tricks. He was doing tricks. Like it was totally fucked up. So, and pretty much, he was like, he was interesting because like, he just would get it in his head. He could do something and do it. Like, I remember, I mean, we snowboarded together, but not like we would go our separate ways, like Shakedown. And he went to finger on the trigger and then like kind of came back again, for Love Hate. But I just remember like, definitely in Love Hate, it was we had our little like rail in the woods that we would practice on for like a month before we started filming and kind of get like warmed up again. And he could just do anything. Like it didn't matter if he'd done it before or tried it before. He just full commitment, could do anything. It was pretty insane. So I'd be like, oh, I want to like to whatever, like backlip this rail. And he's like, yeah, I was thinking, and then I was goofy and he's regular. So he's like, yeah, I was thinking switch backlip. And I'm like, cool, dude. Now my backlip is like useless. So, and that was kind of like our, we had to kind of figure out, I had to like work around what Hebel was going to do because he could do it. He could do it any which way, but it was pretty mind blowing. The Love Hate year, like snowboarding with him, because like a lot of that stuff that he filmed, he'd literally never tried before. Like that well, I guess he had done that on like a gap rail and finger on the trigger on Moment of Truth, maybe that was that year. He did like a frontside 180 switch tail press on this like smaller gap rail.
Yeah.
And
the one in Love Hate is really good.
It was insane. So like
nobody had done them at that point, just so 180 press.
And on like a long rail where you have to actually balance on it. And I remember he was like I'm like, we get to this rail and I don't remember what I was trying on it. I think I stopped because that rail like goes into traffic, dude. And it's on.
Well, they all had to like stop him so he doesn't like get hit by cars because it's like at a four-way intersection.
Busy four-way intersection. So I was like really not into it. I think I tried a couple things and then the snow was melting and speed was all crappy. And I was like, I don't really, there'll be another rail that I want to hit. And Hebel was like kind of like toying with a couple things. And then he just starts like 180ing over the rail. And I'm like, what is this? I was like, oh, he's going to frontside 270 this rail. And then he just 180 and is like kind of tapping the rail. And I'm like, what is going on? And then all of a sudden just does it, like just puts the tail on and just fucking rides this thing out. And it wasn't like there were some close tries. It was just like, well, this is also my memory, but it was just like, I didn't really know what he was doing. And then it just happened, and it was pretty wild. Cause I don't think he ever did that at our little practice rail at the original spot. Which was just a really, really small rail that we had.
Oh man, that was sick. Because I actually seen I watched Happy Hour a lot, but I guess when Shakedown came out, that's the first part from you that stuck in my head. And the you shared that part with Tadashi, and you had the ghost face track.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And you filmed one of those front blunt to fakies. And I feel like you had like a good long window with the cab 270 as well, like as just like a staple, like front
Oh,
270, cab 270, like that rail garden work really, really paid off. But that part to me really stood out. And there's a rail specifically that I wanted to talk to you about, because I'm pretty sure you were at that rail, the Burlington kink,
Mm-hmm.
with JP and Jeremy and Mikey LeBlanc.
Yeah, that was my first rail trip with those dudes. Probably my first time snowboarding with them, really.
Yeah, so maybe if you could touch base on like just riding with like literally like John's up in Alaska, like, damn, it'd be cool to go to Salt Lake. Jeremy and JP are there. 2 years later, you're riding a kink with them.
And a kink, I wanted to go to that spot really bad. I didn't realize it was an aluminum kink rail, like it's like soft aluminum. But yeah, that was our first trip. Like I had no concept of what happened when you were filming a video part. Like I didn't know the process. I didn't know what was going on. And we just like get out there. That's our first spot. We got checked into the hotel, went out there, lit it up. And I had just learned backside 270s. I think I had just learned those. So I don't think I had filmed one that year, or I'd filmed plenty. They didn't look very good. So they didn't get used in Shakedown. And then I was like, oh, I want a backside 270 this thing. And I think I hit it a few times and then just chucked this wild backside 270 that was pretty gross. And then I was like, oh, I'm done. Like I did the trick, like I'm done. And I learned the hard way after that trip is like, no, there's like, you can do it. And that's okay. But you got to do it right for it to go into the video. And I remember we like had like a little footage review after that. And they're like, nah, you either got to do it again or it's not going in the video. And I was like, oh, damn. So like this is a different level than I'm used to. But watching those guys snowboard, I don't know I can't remember what Mikey hit out there, but I remember like JP and Jeremy were like gapping out to nose press. And I was like so blown away that you could aim your nose at a rail like that and like and not just like dive into the stairs. So I think I was like a bit timid too on that trip, where I didn't want to like get in their way, and I didn't want to like I don't know. It was a weird one. That one they were super nice, but for me I was like there was a little bit of anxiety, I guess.
Oh, for sure. You're just trying to figure out your lane. You probably don't even know like how to compose yourself when you're with like your absolute, they're your legends, your heroes, and then you're with them, and then how shit gets set up, and then like who hits the spot first, what tricks am I allowed to do if they're doing these tricks? Because I mean, I watched there's JP posted like a long time ago, like on his YouTube video, like a sesh with you, with the sesh on the Burlington kink with like you, Jeremy, JP, and Mikey, and they show the back 270 that you do. It's actually really sick, but I understand why they wouldn't use it, but it's
like rolling up the window.
But for that era, the way you lock and come out is so bolts that it was totally usable, considering some of the stuff that they were using at that point. But JP did the switchback 270 and the cab over 270. And then Jeremy does the 450. And then Mikey kind of, I feel like at that point was just starting to curate one of his staples, like that switch nose blunt that him and like Eric Christensen really had like.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I think the back 450 was it that trip?
It wasn't in the same sesh.
Okay. Cause I know they went back to that. They went back to Burlington later. I didn't go with them. I also didn't know you had to like film all winter long. I took like a 3-week skate trip with my friends in the middle of filming, which is probably why I ended up with a half a part in there. I didn't know you, like, I didn't know how it worked. I was just like, I don't know, like, I'll go. I want to go skate.
You're just like, filming is secondary. Okay, love hate. How did that opportunity present itself? Because it seems like, was the hangout with Mikey when he was like, yo, this kid's doing front blunts, and that just spiraled into him calling you the next year? Or like, that seems like maybe you didn't know at the time, but like, love hate to the core community today, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, it is like top 3 snowboard movies ever made. And to have one of your best parts, or arguably your best part ever in that movie, was like, it's iconic. It's a very special part to, if it's a very good video to have anything in, I think, because it's like, even the youngest kids today, the Mount Seymour kids that are like young, that are like about it, it's like they're still watching that movie and being like, this is it. Like, this is a fucking gold right here.
It was when I think about that year in particular was so wild, because then I got like I got an understanding that like we have to do things. The bar is high. Like I know what Jeremy and JP are going to be doing. I know where their heads are at, and like the expectation on perfection, kind of, and then me and Hebel were just like this, beginning of the season, we're just trying to learn all of the tricks, and really wanted to. I don't know at what point we found out we were filming for Love Hate, because Mikey, I remember getting a call from Mikey. I just started, Holden just started. So I think my first paycheck was an iPod. He was like, I want you to write for this new clothing company that I'm starting, Holden. We're going to do a video, or like a movie. And I remember getting an iPod, like an iPod video or something. Maybe it was just a regular iPod, but I was like, this is so sick. Mikey LeBlanc gave me an iPod, and I think I still have that iPod in my office. It's pretty wild. I look at it and I think about it sometimes, but I don't think it works anymore. Or I definitely don't have any way of charging it anymore. But yeah, like that's when Justin and I got pretty tight, because he was like, hey, you're gonna have to not film for Mackdawg anymore. Like, it's gonna be like a whole different thing. And I remember that being kind of like a pretty wild decision for me and for my sponsors at the time. They're like, whoa, hold on a second. You're going to do something else with Mikey LeBlanc, and you're in a Mackdawg video, and they want you to come back next year. And I was like, yeah, it's going to be cool. Like, no concept of anything, like, I was like, it'll be cool. Like, these are my friends. I want to snowboard with my friends. And we like Daryl Mathis, Mikey, Jordan. Jordan was kind of like, there was almost like a couple crews at that point. It was like, for sure, it was like me, Daryl, Hebel. Mikey was kind of bouncing between the two. Like, to be honest, it was a lot of times it was mostly me and Hebel together. And then kind of everybody doing their own thing, with Cole Taylor, me and Hebel and Cole and Daryl. And it was super sick, because Instagram did not exist. We had no clue what anybody was doing, at all. Like, there was no like leaks. Like, you'd hear like rumors, but you had no fucking concept of what was going on out there. So we were like, I think our mentality at the time was like, we want to like push as hard as we possibly can and make snowboarding look like skateboarding. That sounds stupid, but that was the goal. And or at least have like a video that was like a skate video that was cool, and so we did what we did. And I remember at the premiere and all the like write-ups on it, and what people were saying, I lost, K2 dropped me as I like canceled my contract, and they were calling it like cigarettes and handrails, and we were just like, damn, we fucked up. Like,
what K2 dropped you because you filmed for Love Hate instead of Mackdawg, or?
Well, kind of. It wasn't during the Love Hate year. It was like in like pre-season before Burning Bridges. I was like on my way to drive out to hit this rail, and I got a call from Kevin English wasn't there anymore, and there was like a new dude. I can't remember his name, but he calls me up and he's like, "Hey, do you have a second?" And I was like, "Who the fuck is this?" And he's like, "I'm so and so from K2." He's like, "I just wanted to say, like, I don't think we're gonna continue on with your contract. We don't view what you're doing as real snowboarding." And I was like, "Oh, damn, dude." He's like, "We want to kind of take it back to the roots, like more backcountry, more alpine." And I was like, "Yeah, that's for sure, like not what I want to do. So go for it." And Sean Kearns was like he wasn't my agent, but he's like, "Hey, if you want an agent for anything, like let me know." So I call up Kearns and I'm like, "Hey dude, can you fucking deal with this? I'm trying to like film a video part and I want out of this contract. Like they're saying that they're not going to honor the contract." And he's like, "No worries. He's like, I'm gonna get you out of that contract. I'm gonna get you paid out of the contract, and I'm gonna get you a new board sponsor." And that's when Santa Cruz came into the picture. I feel like it was like 2 weeks or a month where he was just like, I got paid for, I don't know if it was whatever was remaining on my contract in one lump sum. And then I got on Santa Cruz. They gave me a pro model, like the Cookie Monster board, and that all got kind of wrapped up there.
I love that it's Sean Kearns. Like in Canada, he's just kind of like, elite, like just the name itself, like Sean Kearns, the snowboarder, the personality, the businessman. And I mean, and he used to ride for Santa Cruz, so he probably had like a big in there. And I just feel like he was pretty bold, you know what I mean? Like if he fucked with somebody back in the day, I could just see him calling Santa Cruz and being like, "You're putting this kid on." And they were like, "Okay, yeah, Kearns, we'll do it."
It was wild. I knew what I was doing with K2. I was like, Kearns is going to scare the shit out of him. I'm not going to scare the shit out of him. So
you used him like the older brother. I love it.
I just remember thinking like, fuck these guys, man. Like I'm on my way trying to do my job essentially. And like, then this dude calls me up and is fucking with my like head before I get there. Like, I was like, "Now you have to deal with Kearns. You fucked up."
That's sick. Because I feel like now it's like K2, their whole MO right now would be like if their rider was in a movie like Love Hate, that'd be like the dream. They'd be like, "Yes, he's so on brand and so doing it right." And if somebody was in a big weird Alpine movie that was like very untastefully edited, they'd be like, "Fuck, we got to call the Alpine dude and let him know that he's done." I'm just kidding, but like,
And it was good too.
team
Like
managers, they're weird.
Well, he was a marketing manager that had taken over. Like Kevin English went. I don't remember exactly where he went. I know he ended up at High Cascade, but he wasn't my team manager anymore. And I think that's when they were like, "Oh, let's probably like, hey, we got to save some money. Like, what are these stupid kids doing on handrails? Like, we don't understand this." But when it was on, it was really good. Like they had like that first like jib board, the WWW, I think is what it's called.
Worldwide Weapon or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That thing was fucking awesome. And like, I don't know, it was real good. It was real short-lived experience for me on K2. And but Santa Cruz was equally as awesome, like right out of the gates, like pro model, whatever you want, you just have to have the logo on the base. And I was like, I don't know what to do with this logo. And I had my buddy was a graphic designer, and I was like, I want something wild. I want some just bright, absurd, bright colors. Like that was the only thing I wanted. And I was like, what do I do with this Santa Cruz logo? What's it look like to me? Like if we're gonna like incorporate anything, I was like, I wanted something like kind of, I don't know, dumb. I don't remember the rationality behind it. I knew I wanted pink and green, and and I was like, fuck it. I want to do the Cookie Monster, and taking a bite out of the Santa Cruz logo, and And he did that, and then they made it a board, and I got my first royalty check. And people still talk about that board every once in a while. I wish I had one.
You don't even have one.
No, that one I don't have. I don't have that one, and I don't have another one of the nitro ones.
Damn.
And pretty much like there was a time there where I was just like breaking boards in half, so they were going real quick. So yeah, that one I don't have.
So do you remember like the end, like Love Hate comes out, Burning Bridges comes out, you're in the theater at Burning Bridges, you kind of know the whole vibe. When you're watching Burning Bridges, for the premiere, you're like, this shit is fire. Like, this is what I want to be in. This is the taste I like, the vision I want to be in. And did you kind of realize that it was as sick? I mean, looking back, it's like looking at those two movies in particular, Love, Hate, Burning Bridges. It's like the two of my favorite movies that really shaped an entire generation of snowboarders. And it's impactful when it's still like kids are still watching those and like shuffling the way that they view like kits and style and taste and photography and filming and trick selections to this day. Did you kind of know the impact that was going to have at the time, or were you kind of like, these just feel like another snowboard video?
No. It felt like Love, Hate. Well, let me go back. I'm gonna go back to Shakedown. So Mikey, and the reason I love Mikey so much, and this is like something he said to me that I still think about, I still use, and I still tell people as like kind of a life reference, I guess, like people on my design team and stuff. I'm like, he shows me my first video part. I'm pretty sure this was for Shakedown, but he shows me the first video part and he's like, what do you think? And I was like, I fucking hate it. And he's like, that's good, because as soon as you start liking your own shit, you might as well just pack it up and like stop doing this. And I was like, and I kind of like just hung on to that forever, and I think it, at least for me, and I think probably the same for everybody who kind of came up at that time, it was more, you were hypercritical on every single little thing, like we were hypercritical on the height of the jumps up to rails. Like we were hypercritical of the way we landed. And for me, that being hypercritical of everything ended up helping me in the future, like it helped me analyze and figure out what I liked. So when we fast forward to Love, Hate, what I took from that movie was like, we were all just doing our own thing and it was awesome. And we had the best time ever. And when I came out of the premiere for the first time, I was like, that felt like a skateboard video, like that. And that was always like kind of the goal, for at least for me. I assume for everybody else, it was always like I didn't want another snowboard video. I didn't want to be in another snowboard video. I wanted to be in a skateboard video, but I was never good enough,
I liked how that movie unfolded too, because at that time, I remember when the first time I put in that DVD, I watched it and it was like me and Kuzik and like our whole crew.
Sick.
And we pressed play and we were confused. It like stopped and we were all just like, and Jake at this time's like 14 and I'm probably like 16 and we're just like, and we're like, okay, like that was really sick, but like, okay, that was sick. Like, fuck, that was really sick. Like, let's watch that again. And then we were just like on loop. We probably watched it like, a million times that night. And within like a month, we had like the playlist on our mini disc players. And we were going to the hill and just listening to this. And the soundtrack to that movie is perfection. And they did such a good job of showcasing like, Mark Frank's personality and your personality, like Mikey and what's his name again? I'm forgetting at the top of my head. The other editor.
Shelby Menzel.
Yeah, Shelby did like such a good job of like capturing everybody's personality and marketing everybody in that movie tastefully. Like everyone looked so dope. And I wasn't inspired by one rider. Like from you to Daryl to Mark Frank to Nate Bozung to Andy Forgash to Matty Ryan, Hebel, everyone in that movie, I was like, I like everybody in here. Like, I want to be like all of these guys. Like, it was like the most impactful movie for like me and my crew. And then I move out west and I'm talking to all these French Canadians that live, like I used to live with back in the day. And I move into this French Canadian house, and these guys are boarders. You know what I mean? They got the grenade stickers on their board. They got the Holden stickers.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, and it was just like, everybody liked, you know, all of the videos at that time. And we all brought our collections out west, but love, hate was the one thing that anybody from that era, it's like, if you didn't like that movie, it was just like, oh, we can't even hang out. Like, what? Like, and you could see the people that didn't like love, hate. You could see it in their riding. Like at that time, you could be like, oh, that guy probably doesn't watch love, hate. Like,
that's pretty funny.
Kind of like in a burn sense. You're like, damn, that guy totally, because you would see the guys that were inspired by like you and Daryl and Hebel and Jordan all kind of had like the fitted pant, and like, I wouldn't even call it hesh. It was just like very dope casual snowboarding style. And then everybody else was trying to like look like Bozung and MFM. And then there was the really big heshers that were going like Forgash and Matty Ryan on them.
Yeah.
And it's like, you could kind of pick your poison at that time. And it was a special time in snowboarding, especially for me. And so, yeah.
Same. Mikey was a genius, dude. Like, he sent me, so we had, I think before Love Hate, we had like this big team picture I think we all went to Portland to where their like design studio was. Maybe it was before Burning Bridges. I don't know, somewhere around that time. But like it was like the whole team just sitting in this like warehouse, and he sent me the photo. Like, I talked to him, I don't know, not as much as I should for sure, but every once in a while, and sometimes he'll just send me random photos. And this one, I was looking, we were babies, but it was like such an eclectic group of people. Like none of us, like the group he got together, like didn't make any sense, but it worked really well. And that was Mikey. It wasn't us. We just were all like kids just wanted to snowboard. But the group that came together, we all like kind of learned and evolved off of each other. Like, I learned a lot, and our styles like started integrating too. Like, obviously I started riding with Jordan a lot more. Hebel like kind of like took a little bit of a hiatus after those movies, but so I ended up snowboarding Jordan more, and my style evolved there then. And it was like we all became very close, and it was a really fun experience, and one that I'm very, very proud that I was a part of.
Yeah, it's arguably one of the greatest snowboard videos ever made. I would say, if I watched every video that I've ever watched, which goes all the way back to like, you know, the late 80s to now.
Wow.
Like, but maybe I just feel like that because it was like, I was the most impressionable at that point in my life, being like a 16-year-old. But it is interesting to see the kids that are like, you know, 10 years younger than me and 10 years older than me, all saying the same thing about that video. It's like, didn't really matter the era you're coming from. You could put it on in front of anybody, and anybody who has like that kind of, I hate using the word artistic, but it's formulated very artistically. It's like there's the lifestyle shots of everybody. And I loved that little section of everybody smoking in it. And I've always been like captivated by people smoking. Like, I don't smoke.
We didn't smoke either.
I was just like, but everybody fucks around with their friends and has like a drag and stuff like that. And I thought it added to the movie, if anything. I was like, I actually watched the smoking section this morning because before I jumped on this podcast, it's the section right before your part. It's like a minute of people smoking, and then it's like Kooley.
It was what we went to this bar in Portland, and they were giving out free packs of cigarettes. So like, I would say for sure Maddie and Jordan smoked. I don't know. I don't think any of us smoked. And but they were giving out free packs. So we all were just like smoking and it was super dumb. But I think that was part of the beauty of that movie was the antics. Like there was social media was like, it was like MySpace and Facebook and like we didn't really use that. And you didn't get like anyone's personality in any other real personality in any other snowboard video. But I think Shelby was always filming. Like he was always filming wherever we went. He was filming like in the bar, in the restaurant, like while we were talking. So you got, I think for me anyway, that was the most attractive thing about the movie is like, I'm like, oh, like what you're seeing, the Hebel you're seeing is like, that's Hebel, you know, like the Jordan you're seeing, that's Jordan. Daryl, like it wasn't like there's no one was doing anything for the camera. It just kind of happened.
Totally. I mean, the staple frame shot with you with the iris goggles, and then you got the booger coming out of your nose. It's like, you don't get those shots when you're a filmer without always having a camera handy. And it's like, you can just see, and I've filmed with a lot of people that I've filmed with over the years. They only film when it's time to like hit the jump.
Yeah.
And so they film some lifestyles during the session and before and after, but then the camera goes away, it goes in the bag. It's like when I'm on a trip and I'm with like my favorite filmers of all time, you know, whether it's Aaron Leyland, Jake Price, Hayden Wrench, you know, Harry or Tanner or whoever, Meyer, they all have cameras. They just have them handy because it's like, you never know when there's going to be an epic moment to film. Brockle's another great example of like someone who just real filmmakers love filming. So they always just have a camera to be filming. And it's like, you capture those golden moments that like make an entire movie. Like one of my favorite filmers of all time is Beagle, like skateboard filmer. Like he's my favorite follow on Instagram because it's just like, he's kind of the person I think I've always wanted to be. Kind of, I'm like, I'm kind of you, but not, because you're the coolest version of whatever I could. When I first saw all the Beagle mixtapes, I'm like, that's how my brain works. But I just couldn't put it on paper ever because like that's what I'm thinking. And it's like, and you can watch all of his tapes and they're so enjoyable because yeah, he's just filming all the time. And you could see that in that movie. And I mean, Mikey did a great job of, and
Shelby,
of putting that movie together and capturing those personalities.
And Cole Taylor too, because like I mean, like we would film with Shelby often. Usually it was like, oh, I hope I'm not forgetting another person filming. Jesse Burtner filmed for that movie.
Oh yeah, I forgot that too.
And he like, I remember because Jesse and I were good friends and we went to, I wanted to get a first tracks like front cork off this cornice. And I was like, and I wanted no tracks on the landing, you know, like as you do. And I remember being so mad at him because I like twice he did it to me where I did something first try and I was like, sick, I'm done. Like, and then he's like, I didn't turn the camera on. And I'm like, what are you talking about? You didn't turn the camera on. Like, this is insane. And that one, so there was like a lot of me like punching my board. And I was like, I wasn't mad at myself. I was mad that Jesse didn't film the first one, you know, like, and it was pretty fun. It was pretty funny, but like, yeah, Jesse, it was insane because he would go, let us film on the jump the whole day or whatever. And then he'd come and do like shit way better than us, you know, like we'd get our tricks and he's like, cool. And this is like totally tracked out jump, all fucked up. And then he's like, okay, I'm just going to get a front nine real quick and then we can get out of here. And he'd do it first try and then we'd leave. And he filmed like an epic video part on his own for Think Tank. Well, he was actually like filming for Love Hate. It was pretty wild.
That's amazing. What a cool little plug there. Yeah. I mean, Jesse and Cole are both amazing at capturing stuff too. Like, not to put it all on Shelby and Mikey, who obviously had a huge part of that, but like Cole Taylor in his own right is like, you're like, holy shit, he's captured some of the best snowboarding ever. His eye is impeccable.
He is like so awesome. He's I actually talked to him, I don't know, maybe a couple months ago. I was talking to Bob, which you look a lot like Bob Plum.
Bob already hates me, so don't say that. No, he doesn't actually hate me, but he gives me a hard time.
I'm gonna tell him. I do talk to Bob a lot. Yeah, I was just like, I was talking to Bob, he mentioned Cole, and I was like, dude, give me his number. I haven't talked to him forever. And like, that dude is such a good dude. And it was so fun. We like really like hazed him, I would say, because he's like, it was so like, Tech Nine was so different from what we were doing. And he's like, I remember where all those, like, everybody was like, yo, and stuff. It was because he's like, we're at, I don't know, on a trip, and he's like, my Tech Nine boys know how to like act in front of a camera. And we were like, oh, you want us to just be like, yo, all the time? And he filmed it, or Shelby filmed it. And then it was like an ongoing joke. But
it's your burning bridges opener.
Yeah, it was like, I think we did it all the time. But he's such a good dude, man. Miss those guys. It's wild. So much time has passed.
Why did it come to an end? Like Kidsnow, like why did they stop making films? And that must have sucked for you to get that call. And then you're like, damn it, I should have stayed with Mackdawg. No, I'm just kidding.
No, I don't think, Mikey, I think we always knew it was not going to be, there was going to be like maybe one video, maybe 3 videos. It wasn't going to be like a thing forever. But no, it was like, I was bummed because I was bummed that the crew was splitting up. You know, everybody was going to kind of go do different things. Daryl went to Mackdawg, Hebel, Jordan, and I went to People, or People. Yeah, People. Pierre was starting those, and I thought that could be kind of like Kidsnow maybe. And then yeah, I don't know. Everybody just kind of like went their separate ways, you know. But it was, yeah, I didn't know.
I actually, now that we're kind of on the topic of People, I was texting with Simone, and his name came up in an old interview that I was reading about you, and I was like, damn, I should text Simone, because you said something pretty dope about him in this old interview from like 2008 or something. And I was like, Simone, like you filmed with Kooley, you know, do you have any stories? And he's like, actually I do. Like, he's like, ask him about this time that me and him and Sexton went to Quebec, and we ran into Dan Mignot and Phil Jacques, and they kind of showed up on the scene, and like, he's like, and then Kooley couldn't snowboard, and then Dan kept like tinging the rail and almost dying, and then Phil was like really keen, and it gave Kooley anxiety, and he couldn't snowboard or something.
Oh yeah. I forgot about that. We had like we had a little trip around Canada for sure, because we went like I wonder, was that the same year we went to like Cologne and
yeah, it would have been the same year, because that's the year that you would have done that front 50-50 pop out on that down flat rail behind the gas station in Kamloops.
Oh gosh.
It's like a really high down flat rail.
Oh yeah.
On the one side.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I remember that spot. No one wanted to hit it, but I thought it looked pretty fun. There wasn't that much snow, so we had to use like pallets or something to make a
hit.
But yeah, I do remember that. Yeah, I mean, that was wild. Those guys, like, it wasn't, dude, I'm like, I'm just an anxious person. And if things like aren't, I like social anxiety. So if I don't know somebody, it makes it real hard, where and snowboarding, it was like, oh, if I don't know these people, I don't feel comfortable, I don't want to snowboard around them, you know? And it wasn't anything personal at all. It was just like, for me, it was like very intense, because they were like going for it, you know? And I was like a little more like reserved, where I'm like, I want to like kind of pick and choose my battles, and figure out what I do want to do at the spot. And I'm like, oh God, like there's like wild stuff happening. But it was cool. Like, and those guys were great. It was all on me, just being a little like socially awkward, I guess.
Well, I think that like Dan Mignot is kind of like a little bit of like an alpha male, kind of loud. And then he starts like tinging the rail, which would be stressful. And then you have like, I'm imagining Phil Jacques just being like a young, hungry, keen snowboarder who just like similar to you when you're filming with like JP and Jeremy back in Shakedown. It's like you kind of don't know your lane and you're kind of just like, like, do I try the trick that he's trying or do I just stand here and do nothing? So it's just like, and then you're there trying to actually film a part and you're like, this is all fucked up. Like, this is fucked. I gotta chill.
Well, in the same breath, they were taking us to their spots, you know? So like, we were very like appreciative about that, but it was still like, for me, it was like, again, like going back to like Shakedown, tight group of people. Like I pretty much only snowboarded with JP, Jeremy, Seth, and Mikey. And then when you go to and we went to, no one took us around. We went to all of our own spots or found them. Same with Love Hate, Burning Bridges. We got shown around in a few places, but that was like kind of new that year. That where like there was that being able to like reach out on Instagram, or there was like a way of like communicating with people and be like, hey, we're coming to your town.
Totally.
You show us around. And that was different. It was just different for me, where it was like, I'm used to like a small like group that I trust, and like, and we work it out. And then you put like, you bring in these other elements that gave me quite a bit of like anxiety, I guess. But yeah,
Totally.
I remember it. I do remember like the pinging on the rail, and that shit was fucking so scary. Cause like you hear that sound and someone's going down, you know, usually.
Oh, I know the sound. He said something about you guys bumped into him later that night, and he said, "Those are really nice shoes, man." And he said that it was like a running joke for the rest of the year or something.
It was pretty awesome. Yeah, we just like, we liked, what we really liked about like Quebec and like and the like, I guess, like, I don't want to like lump all French Canadians into this, but at least the snowboarders that we met, it was very direct, you know, like if you're like, hey, how did that look? Like, this was a thing that I don't know who or when or what, but it'd be like, hey, how'd that look? And they're like, oh, it didn't look very good. And you're like, well, fuck you, man. Like, wait, am I allowed to swear?
I know. I've filmed with French Canadians a lot. It's like, it's just the language barrier. So they're just like, oh, he asked me a question. And they probably have like little nouns and verbs and things like that they would tastefully add in their French. But when they go to communicate in English, it's just like, I would ask, like, I filmed with this guy, Anto Chamberlain, for a long time when I was on DC.
Oh, yeah.
Great guy. And I would be the same thing. I'd be like, how was that lip slide? He'd be like, crooked, weird arm, not good. You should do it. Jesus fucking Christ, that was harsh. Like,
yeah, you're like, all right, man. Well, fuck. Like, I guess, like, maybe I shouldn't even be doing this.
Totally. I'm like, I'm just gonna curl up in a ball and quit then, and not even get after it.
And that was really funny to us, because it was like, and I do remember the shoes one. I don't remember the moment it happened, but I remember us like loving the way he said it, and it was like kind of out of nowhere too. So I don't know, we were dumb. We just like would hang on to these things and entertain ourselves, you know?
Well, it kind of builds camaraderie on those like trips. You know what I mean? If you find like a little inside joke, by the end, that inside joke, I feel like a lot of the times like makes you and that crew feel like, you know, like you're like homies, you know what I mean? You have something, and the next time you see them in Salt Lake, you kind of like, oh, what's up with those shoes? And you're like, oh, it's an icebreaker. It's just like, and then you have it forever, and it's kind of like a special little thing and a good way to like bond.
I don't remember whose shoes he was talking about either.
I don't know either.
I don't know. I'm gonna have to ask Simone.
How was filming with, like, you know, you go from, you know, Love Hate, People, and then you kind of get thrown into like some different crews. Like, how was filming with like Sexton and Simone and like JP in that time?
It was awesome. Like Simone, like, just, you know, Simone, he's like the nicest dude in the world. So like he just integrated into our group perfectly. Like I remember Sexton, it was like I'd also known Simone for a while. Like we didn't like snowboard or film together often, but like Jib Fest and like he was always like hanging out with like JP and Jeremy. So it was like we'd ride with him. He'd come up to the spot sometimes. Like he wasn't like totally like a stranger, you know.
Totally.
Where Sexton, we'd like see like this kid in videos, and we're like, oh, this kid is really good. And I remember the first time that he came out with Jordan and Jordan and I have like a very similar personality. It's like very reserved, very like apprehensive. I don't know how to describe it, but I'm actually just like describing Jordan right now. Maybe we don't share the same personality, but
Yeah, but you guys are a little bit introverted in like in a new scenario, maybe.
and we're very particular. Like so like someone could take us to 100 spots, am I only like 2, you know, maybe. And that's not true. But we go to this like kink rail, like Joe starts filming for We're People Too. Never met this kid really. And he was like a fan too. So that made it even harder because I'm like, oh dude, I don't want to let you down. I don't want you to like be like, oh, I don't like filming with this guy because he doesn't want to hit any of these rails and taking him too. And he was so good. And he was like, first rail of the trip is like down the middle of the stairs, down flat down, and like Jordan and I are like trying to figure out what we want to do on this thing, and which turned out to be absolutely nothing. I don't think either of us hit it. And meanwhile, Sexton is just backlipping this thing forever, and that was also something that we didn't like to do, like hang out at a spot for a very long time, you know, and we're just like slinging him in this thing. And the whole time I'm thinking, this is fucking wild. I would never backwhip this thing. And he was just so good and so happy and so excited. And yeah, he became like also like integrated into our crew after that trip. I don't remember what else we did on that trip, but I do remember that one rail. That was like my first introduction. He had like long hair. He looked like Shane, like
Shane Cross kind of look or something.
He definitely like had a little Shane Cross vibe, but he was like, it was cool, you know. He was like kind of hippie skater kid, and it made me feel young for a moment, I guess.
You're like, thanks for showing up. But it's sick when you're like, you know, you need to be like, it's nice being the mentor and having like a young apprentice that you can kind of like dump some kind of knowledge on, but then it's beneficial for the apprentice too, where like he's like Sexton is like hanging out with all these mentors. And I mean, I really think that because of who Sexton hung out with when he was younger and impressionable, it's like really helped shape who he is today. And he's like a very respected, still boarding, owns a snowboard company, Public Snowboards. Yeah. And it's sick, but it's like because he rode with people like you and Simone and E-Man and you know, whoever else, LNP and Laurent and, you know, all those people that like help shape who he is. And now he's just this like little goat now.
He's still so sick. He's still like so excited. Like I'll text him every once in a while. Well, fuck, it's been maybe a couple years, or yeah, at least once a year I hear from him. And he's still just so excited about shit. It's awesome. Like still the same to me.
Yeah, I'm a huge Joe fan. I've known him for a long time and we're kind of the same age. And I was just a big fan the whole time. And getting to see him and how he's navigated his career and has given back to snowboarding and stuff. I'm like, damn, he's done it right.
It's really cool. Him and Daryl are doing that, right?
I don't know who else is behind it, but it's like, when I think of Public, I just think of Joe. So I hope if Daryl's behind it, that's sick too, because I mean, Daryl has great taste, as we all like there's nobody really doing 5-0s and nose presses like right. Like you were saying when you were first riding with JP and Jeremy, they were doing like gap nose presses and you were just thinking how your nose would just go into the stairs inevitably and you would just break your shoulders. It's like once Love Hate came out, it like set the standard for how nose presses, 5-0s, even you could throw in their pretzels, which weren't very commonplace until that movie came out. And it was like, okay, now when you do a 5-0, you don't got to go all crooked and like you got to land like you're doing like you're saying, what you're trying to achieve here is like, feels like a skate video. It's kind of trying to look like a back 5 on a skateboard.
Yeah.
Like you're not trying to do like a salad grind or a susky or some tweaked out or a crook or like an over crook. You're trying to do a back nose grind and that's it.
Those were no goes. Everybody would have like made fun of like when we did those things, everybody, you know, not on purpose. If it just got a little wonky, everybody would just start like heckling, you know. It was pretty funny.
Well, the nose blunt crook, the nose press to nose blunt crook was probably one, and like that was like one of the most common tricks for like 5 years. It was just like jump on into a nose press, immediately go into a crooked nose blunt, slowly do like this slide trick, and then just like pop out. And it would be like, I guess, like
you made it down. It was like kind of messy, but yeah, those just didn't exist. We were such dicks. Like now that I think about it, we'd see that shit and we'd be like, that never happened. Like that trick never happen. So it's fair game on that rail now, you know?
Like if somebody did the trick not proper, you'd be like, you could do the nose press again. Because if you were going to do it with intentions to do it proper, it was still fair game.
Yeah.
I kind of like that. Your back 7 sucked and you opened up immediately and it looked horrible. So I'm going to do this again.
Yeah. It'd be like kind of, that was the mentality, but you know, that's kind of a dick move. I don't know.
On the topic of like videos that you were filming for that were dope, people, Kidsnow, Videograss was a big one. What was it like to film for that crew and like that whole era? Do you have any trips or like individuals that stuck out? Maybe some of your best times with that crew?
I mean, my crew was like the same kind of, you know, like Joe, Jordan and I like just went, you know, when people ended, we just like went over into I called Justin Meyer because like we were friends before, you know, and then he started that. But I was still like, I wasn't gonna like ditch Pierre and like our whole crew and everything that we had going there.
You also have Sean Kearns in your back pocket that you could always, you know,
just unleash on somebody.
Kearns, call Pierre Minhondo right now.
Oh yeah. That could have been good a couple times. No. I could use Kearns right now, dude.
Give him a call. He's your secret weapon.
But yeah, like it was just like when we realized another People movie wasn't in the cards, I just like called Justin. He's like, "Oh fuck yeah, you guys are coming over. We'll figure it out." And so our crew didn't really change much because Marvin, like it was like Joe's Minnesota crew, and then me and Jordan. We definitely like, I no doubt Jordan feels the same way as me on this one, but we definitely felt like the old guys in the video. You know, like it definitely felt like everybody was young and hungry and we were just like tired and old at that point.
Maybe touch base on that, because that's an interesting feeling. Like I feel like I'm getting a little older now, but I still kind of feel like I have the Sexton in me. I'm still like kind of keen and hungry, but I've definitely been on some trips with some older guys where you can kind of see, not that they don't love snowboarding as much, but they have injuries, they have things that they kind of need to nurse, like, and they start to think about the consequences on things because they do have old injuries that could get like, you know, aggravated. And fuck, dude, a lot of people end up start buying houses, they have mortgages, they fall in love, they have kids. It's like the world starts really opening up to more than just snowboarding.
Oh yeah.
Start to look at the bigger picture sometimes before you just hit the closeout.
Yeah. I mean, I think for me, it was mostly my back. I had hurt my back in Shakedown year. I hurt love hate. I hurt it like very seriously. I like herniated a disc and bulged another one. And like doctor said they were going to have to fuse my vertebrae together. That would have been like the end of snowboarding. And then
what was it on, out of curiosity? Sorry to interrupt.
I don't remember.
I was
skateboarding.
Okay.
I was at like I was at South Jordan Skate Park in Utah, and I just landed funny and I was like, oh, my back hurts. And it was like fully locked up. I couldn't move. And it happened once before when I was a kid. And then when I went to the doctor, they were like, oh yeah, you have like the back of a 90-year-old man. Like this thing is terrible. And you're like 22 years old. And Jeremy, I remember Jeremy, everybody had been going to this dude den. And they were like, oh, he'll set you straight. We'll like set you up with him. He was like, he kept me straight for the whole time I was snowboarding, but like, it was like taking its toll. Like every time like I did something funky, like my back would just lock up, but I didn't have to have surgery. So I was able to like pretty much do my whole snowboard career, but it was all with this like one injury that happened at the very beginning. It still fucks me up. Like I was mountain biking the other day and all of a sudden like I'm doing nothing. I'm just like going to climb back up to do it again. And I'm just pedaling and all of a sudden my back locks up and I'm just like, oh, I got off the bike and laid on the ground. And my friend's like, what are you doing right now?
Do you have any like tricks or tips for bad backs, or like what your physio recommends? Because it seems like he's done a pretty good job to give you a, like, if you hurt your back in love hate and you still had another like almost 10 years of pretty aggressive snowboarding, like what were you doing to mitigate that inflammation and those kind of pains? Because guarantee a snowboard podcast, 50% of the listeners right now have bad backs.
Yeah, no doubt about that. For me, it was like, obviously I had to keep my core strong. So I would do like a lot of core exercises just to alleviate any pain. And the root of mine was really like in my hips. So like I had to, and not as good as I should be at this, but I really had to stretch out my hips or like my glutes, you know? And be mindful of that, like know the feeling of when those muscles get tight before like it actually like pulls your back out of whack. Because mine, it's my back, it's my vertebrae, but it's really like the source of it is from one hip, you know? So now I have to be very careful about that. But I think like strong core, getting my muscles worked on and keeping that nice and loose and stretching, kind of helped me. But like once it starts going, once it gets like once I would get like a really bad seize up, it was like the season, might as well just call it quits. The season was over. Because it just kind of kept happening and I had to like plan my tricks out around like what's worth locking my back up for this, you know, like
and if that's going through your head while you're at a spot and you're with all these young kids, I can't imagine that just playing nicely. You would be like, this is frustrating. And are you able to, and you don't want to speak up about that either, imagining with sponsors and stuff like that, maybe. So do you just kind of keep it to yourself and then you're at the spot and the filmer's like, are you going to hit this or you're not? And you're like, literally, I'm on the brink of my back freaking out right now. Like,
I think like, I mean, the biggest time was during like I think it was like Shoot the Moon. I don't remember, honestly. I don't even remember. That's really sad. I don't remember the last video I was in or what the name of it was, but I think it wasn't Shoot the Moon.
Nice Try.
No, what was Nice Try a people movie?
I forget. I just remember Nice Try being like around like the 2014 kind of era.
Maybe it was Nice Try. Maybe it was, but I just remember that Justin Meyer knew what was going on. And I'd kind of like, he was understanding, but I definitely knew like that was kind of like how much longer can I really do this for? Like I can't physically do this really anymore. Like I'm not limber, I'm not healthy. I had shattered my kneecap a couple years before that, so that was also like kind of a thing that is, you know, it feels totally fine now, but it was like you have a wonky knee and a back that just seizes up depending on the day. It seemed like it was just definitely like the writing was on the wall. I need to kind of figure out what I need to do. But everybody was understanding. It wasn't like, and no, certainly no one was going to be like, yo, you got to hit this. You got to have a full part. It was just kind of like, yeah, go do your thing. And like, we're stoked.
Do you think that if you didn't have the back injury or the knee injury, was the motivation to still film your best clips still there? Or were you getting a little bit burnt out on the process that you had been doing for so long at this point?
Um, I mean, it was just different. I still loved snowboarding. I still loved going out and doing that. And but it was definitely different. Like at the beginning, it was like exciting and new, and you wanted to push, and you wanted to push your friends. You wanted your friends to push you. And then, like you said, like life kind of happens. Like, I think I was on my second divorce, and like had a mortgage, and was like, okay, like, and thinking about the future. I was like, clearly this is not going to be a long-term. And there wasn't ever a moment in my life where I thought it was going to be a long-term thing. I was like surprised. Like when it first started happening, and I first became a professional snowboarder, I was like, cool. Like, I have 2-year contracts. So like next year, am I still going to be a pro snowboarder? Sign a new contract. It's like, cool. Like, and you're kind of living within those windows. And I think that last one wasn't like, am I going to be? It was like, do I want to be? Like, or what else do I want to? What are my other interests? Do I want to like go back to school and finish that up? What do I want to do? And that was kind of where L1 came into play, you know?
I think that one thing about snowboarding is that when you do it all the time, it takes a toll on your relationship, especially being a professional. Like, I'm imagining, like, you do it on weekends or whatever, or if your loved one loves snowboarding too, perfect. You do that together, you both have other jobs. But being a professional snowboarder and trying to date somebody is so hard because there is no schedule. So if you make a plan with somebody, whether it's a birthday or whatever, but then the snow is good here for if you're riding backcountry, or if like it snows in Minnesota and it's got 2 feet and then the sun's coming in, so you only have a week window before it melts, plans are canceled and you're going. So I can't imagine that being like an easy thing to navigate with a significant other. Like my last relationship, it didn't work at all. Like, it was just like complete headache.
Yeah. And to be quite honest, it was like, I loved snowboarding more than anything else. So like, it took number one priority for me. Like I would be, I was out, one year I did like count how many days I was away from home, and it was like over 150 days away from home. And like, I was married, that probably a no-go, being away from home for that long. But it certainly, like, for me, it was sadly more of a priority, which kind of says maybe I shouldn't have gotten married. But
yeah, that's a big thing. As I feel like with my new girlfriend, it's like I prioritize her over snowboarding, but I also do that because she doesn't give me a hard time about my snowboarding. So I've like found my person who's like totally on board with me boarding as much. And that doesn't just go to this job. Like, I'm imagining in the nearish future, 5-10 years from now, snowboarding will always be part of my life, but I'm beyond to the next chapter doing whatever. She'll be supportive if I need to go overseas, or if I have to work like, or if we have to move somewhere. So finding a partner that just has that, that's a little bit flexible, or what's a better word for flexible? They're willing to compromise, you could say, where I feel like a lot of relationships in 2022, it's like people don't want to compromise. They're like, this is my program and this is your program, and if they don't align, we can't be together. I'm like, y'all, people forever have been doing this thing called compromising. It's like it's like you can't always be in the same lane with your partner. It's like, so you gotta
like, but that's also growing up too a bit and thinking about that, because like I in all fairness to my ex-wife at that time, like I really just didn't even think about it, like I was like preoccupied with other things, that I wanted to do. And it was really unfair to her, but I would like never do that. Like you said, like I just had some growing up I needed to do. And that wouldn't happen with my current fiance. Now she skis, I snowboard, and we went over Christmas, and it is wild right now to like, for me to go snowboarding. Cause it's like, mentally, I feel like I never stopped. Physically, I'm like, things are a little sketchy, but I still will go like 100%. And it's not like I landed on this dude who's skiing. Like I'm a mess. Like I'm just like going as fast as I can, jumping off of whatever I can. And we were at this like tiny mountain in Michigan, Nubs Knob, over Christmas, and it was like ice, and there was like a park that was getting set up, but it was pretty much just find whatever you could hit on the mountain. And I literally landed on this dude's skis. It destroyed the top sheet of my snowboard, knocked him over. And I was like, oh, it's fine. And I'm like, wait, I'm a 42-year-old man. I should stop and help this guy. Like,
I'm so happy you said that. There was a skier that was on this like bank the other day in the park. And he was just like a derp of a dad. And it wasn't really in the park. It's kind of like where the park meets the other run. And I just see him and I'm like, I'm going to fucking smash this dude. He's on his phone and stuff. And he's like kids there. And like, I hit him so hard with like this wave of snow. And I just look back and he doesn't even yell. He just looks at me like, my day already sucked, man. Like, and I'm like, I suck. Like, I can't, like, this fucking guy, I just ruined his day. I'm like old now. I can't just like, fuck, this guy's probably just going through a divorce right now. He can't make his mortgage payments. His kid's complaining about everything. He just spent 10 grand coming to Whistler. He can make nobody happy. And then I just soak him with snow. I'm like, I might've just pulled the last straw from under this guy. Like,
I felt so bad. Well, correction, I felt awesome when I was going down, because I was like, I still landed it, mowed this dude over, like, and like destroyed my snowboard. And then I'm like, I'm such a dick. I need to go apologize to that guy. Like that's not me. That's like 20-year-old Jon, like, who didn't care.
Yeah, that guy, little do you know, is just about to go down to Fox and buy like, $10 million worth of stock. And now he's just like, is that Jon Kooley? I'm done.
That guy definitely. And that's probably the best part right now. I think like also towards the end of snowboarding for me, there was like, this self-inflicted, but it felt like there was expectations. Like if someone saw you or that you see them pointing at you or something, you're like, fuck, I don't want to like do anything because I don't want them to be disappointed or whatever, and then now it's like, fuck, nobody knows who I am. I can do whatever I want, like
that is a very real thing. So I feel like a lot of pros, when they get older, they feel like when they're hanging out with the youth and stuff like that, there's a certain expectation. Mm-hmm. So they just, instead of snowboarding, they'll just not snowboard because they get anxiety. Like one friend in particular, sickest snowboarder ever. He's filmed some of the best video parts ever. But when he's around the youth, he feels like, well, they don't remember those parts. And like, I shouldn't be in the park. And like, therefore, I don't even want to snowboard. And I would rather just avoid it at all costs, which is, I'm imagining once he's done snowboarding in like 10 years, he'll just do exactly what you're saying. Like, I'm just fucking up here boarding. Who cares? Woo! Like, yeah. But like, he's still in his head a little bit about like, which sucks. Cause it's like snowboarding should just be, do what you want at all costs at all times.
Yeah. But I'll tell you the only thing that was different about it than when I was a kid. One, I wasn't willing to do anything that I thought could potentially like hurt me. That was like, and rails were not an option. I wasn't going to hit any rails. I would hit jumps and I would do like the fun ones, like front threes, back 180s. Pretty much that's all I did. But I had a blast. I was so energized, and so I had so much fun. And we went for 3 days. I was so sore by like after like 3 hours of snowboarding. I was like, "There's no way I can do this for like 8-10 hours now." It's like those days are gone. So that was also kind of like a a realization that I had to, that I'm like, oh man, I don't feel old, but that I'm old.
How old are you? 36.
42 now.
42. Oh, I think you might have mentioned that. Well, you don't look a day over 20, buddy. So you're good. So all in all, though, are you happy with the initial shift from professional snowboarding to like this new office John, or like, do you miss it more than ever? And if somebody's snowboarding right now and living like a dirtbag to make it, do you recommend like trying to still like live that up while you can? Or
Absolutely. I feel like everybody should try to do that. It's just, like it is hard. It's a bit of a gamble, and it's a bit of luck, and being at the right place at the right time. And you have to have there's like another element that is like the intangible, that is like, you can be good at something, really, really great at something, but if nobody wants to watch you do it, then I don't know what that extra thing is, but you know what I'm talking about. So there has to be like that extra element, and that one is like, when you see it. But for me, like, I'm very happy. I feel like going into design was just like I feel like snowboarding was always a creative outlet. You kind of like make it what you wanted, by making choices. And that's kind of how design is, like looking at something that like you need to do. Now it's a little bit different. I would say I design less than I did in the past, but in more like managing and directing, but still like through that lens of creativity. Like what's the outcome? Like when you're trying to learn a trick, you ever lay in bed and visualize it, like the body mechanics of it, and
every
like,
night.
you're like you're learning it while you're sleeping. And I think like I've taken that idea and just put it into design. I'm like, okay, like you can see the finished product, you can see the trick that you want to do, and you understand how to get there, and you figure out your own way to make it happen, kind of. But yeah, I don't know. I think I got off on a tangent. I don't even actually remember the question you asked. Would I recommend
that was perfect. And I actually want to touch base on some of the things you said there. Firstly, you said something about like, you need that added little bit of luck, but I think that's just everything in life. Like, I think a lot of people are just like, well, that guy just got lucky. And I'm like, yeah, but if you provide yourself with opportunity, eventually luck is going to be on your side eventually. So if you're just constantly out there and with whatever you're doing, whether it's snowboarding or, design, you're not going to get any jobs doing design if you just sit at home with your designs. Yeah. But if you're handing them out on the daily, you're going to catch a break one time. And that little bit of luck, sometimes all you need. And I mean, for me, I look at all of the things that I've ever achieved, which is pathetic in the grand scheme of things. But to me, I'm happy with the small achievements I've had. And a lot of them are still just luck. You know what I mean? Right place, right time. Somebody needs somebody on the brand. So like my whole start maybe started with Camp of Champions, and I was stickering the vans for free. And then the next week they were like, hey, like you can come ride up at the camp, just because I was stickering vans for free. They were like, why are you here? And I was like, I'll do anything. Like, I just want to get up there.
Yeah.
And the week later, they're like, hey, somebody got sick. Do you want to come up on the glacier and help out? And it's like, yeah, there was a bit of luck on that, but you kind of provide yourself, you can at least push luck into a direction where hopefully it's going to happen for you.
I guess it's also passion too. Like you were willing to do something that someone else would have been like, yeah, I'll do it if you pay me to do it. But you're like, I just want to get up.
Yeah. So at that point, I was like putting a 32 sticker on a van. I was like, I'm down to do this because I liked 32 20 years ago. Now, I don't know, 32, go buy some van shoes, kids. And then, yeah, I mean, also like what your dad said at the beginning, or what you mentioned that your dad said at the beginning, just like, oh, you only have a certain period of time to go snowboarding, John. Like, I wish I did something like that when I was younger. Go do it. And like, my dad kind of gave me the same advice, and I'm stoked that he did, because I mean, it's kind of fun when you have the blessing from your parents to go be a stunt man. You're like, sick.
Because my dad was obviously very like like school focus. Like I had to maintain like certain grades. I had to like there was things that I had to do in order to do what I wanted. And I thought through high school, and that like being like essentially like I didn't say this, but I was like, hey, I'm gonna drop out of college. I'm gonna go do this, and like I'm probably gonna go back next semester. For him to be like, okay, I've been like prepping you for this for so long, and you're just like throwing it away to go snowboarding. I didn't expect that response from him. But I'm happy he gave me I would have done it anyway. So it doesn't, that doesn't matter, but I'm glad I didn't piss him off in the process, you know?
Totally. And I feel like everybody kind of looks at their close friends and their loved ones, and we all kind of make up a path for that person. We're like our girlfriends or boyfriends or whatever, closest friends, they tell you all their problems and stuff like that. And you kind of get to know them really well. And I feel like a lot of the times I make up this vision for my friend.
Yeah.
And that doesn't mean that that's that person's vision. Like my girlfriend's like trying to get these jobs right now, and she's doing these things. And I'm like, okay, so tomorrow you should do this and this and this. And it's like, she looks at it sometimes and she's like, thanks for like, you know, your help on this path, which is mine, but like, I'm going to be the driver of that. And I'm like, that's a good idea. Similar to like, you know, your dad's just like, he could have been like, no, and then you would have fucking done it anyway. And it's just like, you only can.
Well, that's what he told me. I actually had that conversation with him not too long ago. Because for a while, he's like, actually not for a while, the entire time I was snowboarding, he was like, so what are you doing for like work? And I was like, no, I'm like, they're paying me to do this. And he's like, really? How long is that going to last? And I was like, solid question, at least for 2 years. So, and it was like, but I think I got that for a very long time, you know, like up until like, I don't know, maybe 5 years ago, he's like, he's clear and like, I don't know if he necessarily understands what I do, but he at least understands that I do have a real job now. So like, he's not financially worried about me.
Well, I was listening to a podcast the other day, and this guy was saying that with between 5 and 10 years, everyone's going to have to do career changes for the most part because of just how smart robots are getting. So many industries are going to constantly be getting affected and then have to redelegate all these tasks and shuffle everything around. So I think that it's good to be flexible and willing to move quickly on your feet in the day and age that we live, and not to be like, I'm stuck on this path and this is all I'm going to do for the rest of my life. It's like, well, you think that, but there's going to be some disruptions coming all of our ways.
No doubt. I mean, I think you think about, I was thinking about like 10 years, like 10 years doesn't sound that long, but what happens in the span of 10 years if you like start isolating like different things that happened to you or where you were 10 years ago? And it's like, yeah, 10 years is a fucking long time and a lot can happen. And I don't get to retire until for 25 years, 20 ish.
No way, dude. Like we said, you just got to buy some NFTs. Big advice here on the podcast. Okay. One more question, and then we'll kind of lead into like these end quick 8 questions. I'll let you go have some dinner. What advice would you give to someone wanting to make a big career change? Because I feel like you did that, pro snowboarding, and then at one point you're like, injuries, I feel like that's not an easy thing for people to wrap their head around. So do you have any advice now that you have moved into the new career?
I mean, no, absolutely no, and completely understand what you're getting into and what you're giving up, because I think like, well, there's always like, if people are just making like a career change or like changing a job, like the grass is always greener, right? But like rarely is. So like, know what you're getting into, know what that role actually requires, and make sure like you're honest with yourself and you're capable of doing that. Because I think like a lot of people like the idea of something, but without really understanding what it all entails. So in my experience for that, like I really had to think about like when they offered me that creative director job, I was like, okay, one, what's a creative director? I have no fucking idea. Two, like, what does this actually like entail? And I'm giving up something that I know and love. For sure, giving it up, whether it's going to be gone in 2 years or not. It's just like, make sure you like do your research and know what you're doing, and make sure it's going to be something that you love, because I think like we all have that opportunity to do something that we love, but make sure you know what that is, because I think there are a lot of jobs out there that sound better than they actually are, you know?
I think that you articulated that perfectly. The grass is always greener. It's so true. And I feel like a lot of my friends, they hop from one job to the next and they're thinking in their head, they're like, this is what that job means. It's like, well, that's the mirage of that job, but that's not actually what the job entails. You're actually going to be sitting there on a Saturday reading through paperwork. Like, I want to be a lawyer because you watched a movie one time and you saw some guy in a courtroom say some epic quote. Literally, that's 0.1% of his time. The rest is just flipping through pages, reading countless fucking bullshit pages of whatever.
Yeah,
you know?
it's like, I mean, like, yeah, no, it's wild, because I think I came to that conclusion early on. Not the grass is always greener one, but like people were like, oh, you're a professional snowboarder? That must be so epic. You have the best life. And I was like, oh, really? How do you like how would you like to fly down a set of stairs on your back? Like, does that sound good? Like, does that sound like something that you feel like is worth whatever amount of money I'm getting? Like, or like launch, you know, when we're snowboarding, when we're filming, we're making all these decisions. And sometimes it's like, I could either get really fucked up or I could die. And you're like, is it worth that? And we often come to the conclusion that it is for a clip, you know? And it's like, do you think like someone who is a lawyer or working in an office is making decisions that are like, if this doesn't work out, I could get really fucked up?
Yeah, no.
So like when like my like ex-wife or my parents are like, you're so lucky, you get to do what you love. And I'm like, yeah, that's part of it. I absolutely do love this, but there's another aspect that you aren't thinking about. You just think I'm going taking laps up the mountain and that's it.
Yeah, totally. You have to like learn to manage your risk no matter what job you're in, because there's different levels of, you know, fulfillment that you're going to get in each job that are all like correlated with different things. Whether it's like, oh, you get to be really active all day and you're outside, that must be so nice. I'm indoors. You're like, well, when it's -40 and I'm getting frostbite and I have to strap in on top of this wood janky drop in and it's really cold and I feel like I'm too stiff to snowboard, but I just spent a bunch of money to come to freaking Alaska, I better buckle up and get this back tail, because or else I'm going to get dropped because it's contract year. You don't know what that pressure feels like, lady. You don't know.
Totally.
And then you go for it and then you do it half-assed, and then they're filming with a French Canadian and the French Canadian goes, it was not that good. You should do again. And you're like, damn it.
Do that again. I would have done it perfect.
On that note, a couple questions here and I'll let you go.
Okay.
These ones are just like kind of quick. I ask kind of everybody them. All right. Number one, best style back in the day and currently.
Oh, like two different people or one person?
Could be, you know, if they're still boarding, maybe they're just the best.
I mean, my favorite all-time style was probably Jeremy when I was younger. I still like Jeremy style, or Devin. Like, gosh, it's so hard to choose. I have to choose one. This is stupid. Yeah, I would probably say like, you know, like I've always been like attracted to Jeremy's style because he was like a taller dude, and that resonated with me.
Jeremy's part in Shakedown is so good. It's like, and one thing before I get to the next question, I was meaning to tell you this. I always thought it was really cool with people from your era, how good at rails and at jumping. Like you, Daryl, and Hebel, like you guys were kind of a trio. At least I thought you guys were.
Yeah.
Speaking to you, it seems like you guys kind of were. It's like you guys always had sick jump shots too. like we already talked about it, but yeah, that switchback 3 tail that you had, you have sick front sevs, back sevs, like incorporated into like some of the best rail riding ever with like the back 270 and stuff like that. And it was like, I remember being, because I always liked jumping, and it's kind of a new age thing to just have an all rail part with no jumping. And I always liked that about like your kind of era, because I always thought it was cool. So then that's kind of what I did. But then there's like this new thing where like lots of kids just don't even ride jumps, which is fine. You know what I mean? I don't give a shit. It's like totally up to you. If you don't like them, fuck jumps. But just to me personally, I like seeing a back 180 melon in the middle of your part.
I liked it. I did feel like as we started, and this is me personally, it's not my trio by any means. It was just like I felt like the focus, there was so much opportunity to do new in the street. And I mean, obviously that, like, I'm totally incorrect because people are flipping wild. I can't even tell you what tricks they're doing anymore. They're just like flips and spins, and someone calls out a number and I'm like, maybe, I don't know.
You exited snowboarding at a good time, right around the 1260. Now people are doing like, I don't know, 2,140s or something like that. Some stupid name that I don't even want to say.
Although if I saw someone flip off of a rail when it was like, that would have been illegal.
He's not coming back on the next trip.
No, that part. I mean, it just felt, I think for us, it felt like there was more opportunity to do new things because we were still like the goal, like, and I don't know if this was a shared goal. This was mine anyway. It was like, okay, we can, like, I idolized Andrew Reynolds. So like, again, tall, my favorite, he was one of my favorite skateboarders. And I wanted to like try to emulate him snowboarding. So like I didn't, like, there was a moment where I just kind of like stopped. You know, when I was a kid, I tried to be JP and Jeremy. I tried to emulate their style, Devin, like the way, it wasn't like any one person. It was the way like certain people did certain tricks. And then you take those as a collective, and that kind of like gives you your own style. But I did always try to emulate Reynolds skateboarding, and that kind of translated into snowboarding too. So I felt like there was more opportunity when you're not doing, we just kind of never really progressed at jumps, you know. We just kind of like, we did them. It was super fun. Like I love jumping, and now I'm only going to jump. I'm not hitting a handrail ever again. That sounds crazy right now, honestly, like that, even the thought of it. But I'll go hit like a small jump, or definitely a small powder jump would be ideal. But yeah, like I just don't think the time we spent like actually like honing in like our rail skills and like learning new tricks like that, there wasn't, unless you had a good park near you, like Whistler or something, like that wasn't an opportunity to do that at Brighton, you know, when I was younger. I don't know what their park's like now.
What, to just follow up on the jump topic, what was like the one, like, why did you stop sledding? Like at one point, I feel like there was like Kooley, even Daryl, like just like stopped entering into the backcountry. Was there a spooky experience? Did sleds get too expensive, or did your just desires and passions and you're just like, I just want to board in the streets?
I don't, for me, yeah, tons of sketchy experiences, but I remember this one, we would go like, do I have time for another story?
Oh, you got all the time. I have nowhere to be.
So we'd go to Logan, Utah, and like, that's where we like built all these jumps. And that was like probably my favorite place to go film jumps. And I remember like, it just snowed. We're trying to get out there early, and there's this big hill climb and a whole cliff band. And obviously, you know, like you're just out there at like, I think we left at like 3:30 in the morning. We're out like unloading our shit at 5, and like you're sledding out there trying to beat everybody to the spots and beat like the snowmobilers from like ruining your landing. So like there's this whole race very early in the morning. And I remember we get to the lake, and I'm gonna set the trail to get up to the above the cliff band where all like the jump spots were, but someone had to go break that trail, and it was always like kind of like a sketchy thing. And I'm going up it full speed. At the top, there's like this ice chunk, and I literally at the top of this like very steep hill, I just hit this thing, and my sled fucking half backflips, and I just remember pushing off of it, and I'm flying backwards down this like the hill, and I'm just floating, and I'm watching my sled start to very slowly flip, and I hit the ground, and I just like duck up, and this thing is tomahawking down with my snowboard, and hoods flying, snowboards broken, like this thing's just boom, 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 and flips over me, and I was just like, oh my God, like this is so sketchy. And that was like that, and I wasn't wearing a helmet. I was like, fuck that, I'm not wearing a helmet, like this powder. And so yeah, that me and snowmobiling were dear friends. I would say, like, it was kind of a means to an end. But I think I didn't really enjoy like the 3 a.m. like drives out to somewhere to find out the snow is bad, and you're like, cool, I could have like not done that today. I guess, I don't know, laziness.
No way, dude. I feel the same way. Like, this year has been the worst year in the backcountry that I've seen in years, and it's the exact. Luckily, our call time's like 7, so I get up at like 6. So it's like, and it's only about a 30-minute drive to the spot. But even still, when you sled up there, you're up there by 9, and then you walk around, and you're like, oh, it got windy. It sucks. All right, let's go home. Or sit in a cloud all day and hopefully be able to see. So yeah, I get it, man. It's definitely a frustrating thing. All right, the next question: favorite place to snowboard?
Oh, Brighton, without a doubt, dude. I actually like think about it almost every day.
I've never even been to Brighton.
It's so epic. It's like, I mean, dude, it's home. I lived there for 18 years, and I pretty much only went to Brighton. Like that was my resort. And I would love to go back there. I need to make a trip to Utah. Like, it's actually probably easier for me to fly to Utah, go to Brighton, than it is to like snowboard around here on the weekend.
I mean, I'll go to Brighton with you. Let's do it.
That sounds good.
Number 3, biggest pet peeve
in life, or
maybe a couple.
I got a lot. I'm not too excited about flipping off rails. That would be a snowboard one, but I don't know if it's a pet peeve. I just like, it doesn't really like get me excited.
We were on that note, we were at Super Park one year. And one of the team riders at the time was riding up this up rail, and it was like a small up rail, like a chill one, and he did like a backflip. And then the next trick was like a gap to rail, and he did like a backflip to the rail. And I was on the chair with my team manager at the time, Nick Olson. Mm-hmm. And he just looks at me. He's like, he's not on the team anymore. And the next year he didn't re-sign him. Little did I know that I would get cut too, because it was like 2 or 3 years following the 2008 crash. So the spiral kind of happened around 2010. Yeah. So Quicksilver and DC at the time had cut everybody in Canada. But I thought it was pretty funny because we went on a trip with Devin one time, and he like told me and Jeeves that. Jeeves always kind of knew what was up, but Devin was like, what's up with all these flips onto rails? He's like, Jesus, that is so whack. And I'm like, Devin's the coolest.
Yeah, I mean, I can't even imagine what all of like every I don't know what Jeremy and JP's thoughts are on it. I'm positive everybody's sharing my like same like ooh. Like
yeah. I would hope so. What's one of the biggest peeves in life?
Designing, if people don't group their artwork, that really pisses me off.
Group? What does that mean?
Like when you have like a finished product, or like I don't know, I don't even know how to describe it. Just like you like kind of like lock things together, and like if if it's not grouped, I get real pissed off. Or if it's grouped too much, like, because you can keep doing it. And then like, anyway, that one's a design one that will have me like yelling in my office if it's not grouped or if it's grouped too much. And then I don't know. I don't really have any like pet peeves, I guess.
Oh, that's good. Grouped and flips off rails. I'm totally on board. Those are great. 4, what skill do you want to master?
I don't know. I just recently started rock climbing with my fiance. Like, she took me 3 weeks ago. I would really love to master that because right now I'm like very far from it. But I'm also a hobby collector. I like to like just do everything.
Oh, you're a jack of all trades, but then there's not one that you focus all your time on.
Now I would say I mountain bike more than anything. But
so you're in good shape. You'd say, are you pretty active?
I don't know, like was moderately. I don't know. I don't know what they call it. Yeah, I like to do stuff. And then I really like, I started doing that and I was like, holy shit, this is awesome. Which sounds crazy because if you really think of the act of doing it, you're climbing a wall, but but there's a lot of like strategy and all this stuff. We kind of like, it's like snowboarding. I kind of like take everything and like start applying like thoughts from
snowboarding. You're like, this is a rock climbing spot, but it's kind of sick because it's like a bank. It's kind of like a kink rail I got to get around.
Just like the idea of like certain movements, like when you like break down a kickflip, for example, everybody can kickflip and it's one motion, you just like pop, do a kickflip. But if you really think about all of the efforts that are made in the whole process of doing a kickflip, it's kind of like that. Like you like start climbing the wall, but there's like a lot of like skill and agility and like planning and like, I don't know.
Yeah, there's small intricacies that you haven't dialed in yet that are soon to become muscle memory, which you'll just do without thinking in the future. But
that's right. I've only gone 3 times. Keep that in mind. So 4 maybe.
Looking forward to seeing the 5th on your social media. Just kidding. You don't go on it, which is dope. It's
2019.
What's one of your favorite things to do? And I asked that kind of in like an open-ended way, like open to interpretation.
I think one of my favorite things to do would be, I like there's a lot of shit. Like I said, I'm a hobby collector. So like I'll play the guitar for 15 minutes. I'll fucking go on a mountain bike ride. I'll go rock climbing with my girlfriend. I do a lot of things, but the thing I most look forward to is like, we have like a fire pit in the backyard and we just go out there like after dinner and listen to music and like just hang out and like just talk. And it's like, it's the only moment in my life right now that I get to truly just like relax. Like there's no TV, there's no we talk about music, we listen, you see the flicker of the fire. It feels like it is a moment to breathe.
That was exactly what I was hoping for in that question, because I was skateboarding today to drop off some rolls of film here in Victoria, and I was just skating and it was sunny and I had some music playing in my headphones, and there's just like this long road that like goes down at like a 10-degree slope that goes for so long, like a kilometer long. And I was just zipping down slowly, and it's nice concrete and it was sunny, and I was going to the shop, and then I was like, I'm going to get a coffee after this and I'm going to go sit in the sun. And I was like, oh my God, this is a perfect moment. I was having like the best. I was like, this is the happiest I've been in so long. I was like, Jesus. And it wasn't like a big thing. It was just so simple, but I was just like, everything at that moment, I was like the right temperature. I was in the right mindset. I wasn't full. I didn't have to go to the washroom. There was no noises. There's like the ocean, we're right on the ocean. It's like everything was just perfect. And I was like, fuck, this is a nice moment right now.
Where are you in Vancouver? Did I already ask you that? Or are you on?
I'm just outside. So there's an island just to the west of Vancouver, and there's a city there called Victoria. And so
I used to go to Tofino a lot.
Oh, nice.
Well, I used to go to Victoria when I was a kid. My dad loved it because it's so close to Washington.
Yeah, totally.
Fair.
Yeah.
Very rad. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Victoria's cool.
Yeah, Victoria's super dope. Good vibe. We live in a small, like, little neighborhood called James Bay, and it's like, yeah, it's like I'm looking at the ocean's right there. Like, it's so beautiful. We have the nicest apartment in the world. I told my girlfriend, it's like we're never gonna be able to afford to buy a place like this. We're never gonna be able to we're never gonna luck out and be able to rent a place like this because the demand's so high that if anything comes on market, it's like 1,000 tenants are applying for it. Like, we were the first people to respond to this Craigslist. It was like on and didn't even say a minute yet. It was just like on, and we were like, and we responded, first people to view it. We put on a fucking show for them. I told my girlfriend, I was like, we have to fucking nail this. Like, we have to bring our best, like we've never brought before. And like, they're showing us the place, and I'm like, everything I do needs to be perfect because this human needs to like me and want to rent to me after, because they're like, yeah, we're booked for the next 2 weeks with applications. So like every hour for the next 2 weeks, because it's their actual home, they want to make sure they found the right tenant, which I get. But I was like, we ain't gonna get it. You know what I mean? Just like, she looked great. I overdressed. I felt like a chubby guy in a suit. It's like, you know, when you wear a shirt that's too small for you, and I was just like, like, hey, how's it going? I was like, fuck, they can tell, and I'm uncomfortable.
They're on to me. That's how it is around here too. Like that, fortunately, my fiance is a copywriter, so she's, I don't know the exact shit. Sorry, dude. I turned on my AirPods. I was like,
no worries. We AirPodded for a second.
But I was gonna say, I don't want to bastardize what she actually does, but she was a copywriter before, so she's obviously very good with words. And I'm like, when we were house hunting around here, it was like, you have to you not only have to have the down payment and have all like the financial shit in order, but then you have to like you said, make them like you. So I'm like, the real estate agents, like, you got to write them a letter. And I'm like, well, I'm not, they don't want to hear anything from me. Like writing a letter, I'd be like, I don't know. Like, I'm willing to pay what you're asking for it. Like, I don't know. Like,
yeah. My name's John.
And she wrote like these like really nice letters to all these people. And I'm like, this is wild. That's the world we live in now, where it's like, you almost have to like, be like, can you please take my money, not someone else's? Like, I don't get this, man.
That's how actually I bought a place in Squamish, a unit. And at the time, I bought it with my friend, Matt Belzil, good snowboarder.
Mm-hmm.
And he helped me kind of do the whole process. And his girlfriend actually wrote us a cover letter, which totally changed the game, because there was multiple offers, and it was, we weren't going to get it. Basically, my realtor was like, there's multiple offers, and some people have better like terms and conditions than you guys. So, you know, write the cover letter, and it's a hope in the dark. And sure enough, the cover letter, you know, hit some strings. She was like, it's his first house ever, and we got to help this Jody kid out. And, you know, it ended up working out.
It's so epic. It is a wild world.
Yeah, it is. It is indeed. All right. Advice you'd give to the next generation of boarders coming up. You know, how do people navigate that world?
I don't know. Like, I don't know. It's like, I
good
feel
luck.
Yeah. I mean, like, what I want to see, and I think what I've been craving, and this could be because I'm old and like, I'm not like quite, I wouldn't call it like deeply integrated into snowboarding anymore. But what I want to see is someone just like do something cool, you know, like, it doesn't, when I think about like what attracted me to snowboarding was like, everybody was doing the same tricks, right? And it was like, who made it somehow look like it was a totally different trick? Like, how did Devin make a backside 180 look like the most epic thing you've ever seen in your life? And it was like something that someone who's first starting out can do, you know? Like, where is that? Like, I want to see that again. I want to see just like an epic frontside 3. I want to see like these, like, where people are pouring their heart and soul into these like let's call them simple tricks, but you get like an essence of like you get to understand who that person is through what they're doing. Because I think like it was a bit of an art form, and I'm seeing that kind of slip away. Wow. So bring the art back, dude.
Well worded. Fuck, that was sick. I'm not even gonna add anything to that because I feel like whenever I'm like, oh, I have something to add to that, it's just gonna fucking ruin how epic that was. That was fucking perfect, John. First thing you'd do if you won the lottery, and not just the Canadian shitty lottery. I'm talking about the Powerball fucking American $1 billion lottery.
I don't know, man. I wouldn't really change a thing, but what I would buy one thing, and it would be like some sort of cabin on a lake in I'd pay off all my friends and family's houses. I would buy a cabin on a lake for myself and my fiance, and that would be like our like retirement spot and where we'd go vacation. That's all I want. It's just a cabin on a lake.
So do I. That's what I want, man. Cabin on a lake.
Also, like, property so no one can ever be around me. So like there's that too. Like isolation, like cabin on a lake.
My only I really like cabins on lakes that are enclosed and they have like a nice little patio. Like that vibe to me, that are like really airy. Oh, I could just sit on those all day.
Yeah.
Build some, puzzles, couple margaritas, go fishing, go for a swim. That sounds perfect. A charcuterie board. Yeah.
It'll take my backyard fire pit evenings like to just up another notch. It'll be like days.
You need the porch though. You know what I mean? You need the enclosed porch for like that nice cottage. And I don't want no brand new modern cottage either. I want like an old dusty, like feels like a fucking cottage. Like people have been here and there's stories in these walls.
Yeah. No, I'm with you on that. I feel like, and I would like something that like I'd be able to work on myself too. Like I certainly wouldn't want it brand new, but just something modest and then make it fucking sweet.
I agree. All right. The last question. Who is the GOAT?
Dude, it's got to be JP, man. Like, there's no way around that one. Like, it's got to be JP. Like, he's so epic. And I mean, like, there's certainly like people. I mean, dude, he's been doing it for so long. He's still so sick. Like, I can't even believe it.
I remember just recently, like 2 years ago at the beginning of COVID, I started doing some downloading and finding old photos and stuff. I just like to research old snowboarding, and JP's actually very well documented on like Google. If you search his name, Roberta, his wife, has like shared like and saved all of his old like archive stuff from old magazine clippings, covers, and it's all on the internet, which is really sick. So you can go back, but it really gives you an idea of just how long and how ahead JP's been, because he had like covers and stuff like that in like 95, 94 in like his like own small towns, and then like 95, 96, 97, like he was huge. And people don't realize that it's like a 2-decade career. Devin's kind of the same thing. He's Canadian, but like, yeah, that same program. Him and JP to me had like these like 2-decade long careers of like some of the most impactful snowboarding ever done.
I mean, I could have gone so many ways. I felt like Devin is up there, Peter Lyon's up there, and I think of the impact JP's had on me personally and my snowboarding. It's like I remember seeing his backlip sequence on Mueller Park in Salt Lake, like maybe the first backlip I'd ever seen on a snowboard, and there were stairs on both sides, and my mind was fucking blown. I was like, I don't understand what's happening here, because like, what if he falls? I'm like,
was that in tech diff? The back lip, does he go to fakie?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I was just like so blown away. But I mean, that's not like the only, that's not why I'm by any means why I'm calling him the GOAT. It's just like, I think of all that he's done, and like everybody is doing double, triple, quad corks. Like JP did the double cork. Like he made it possible to go over one, you know?
And then stopped at a 9, a double 9 and left.
And it was, yeah, it was so
And it had more flavor than anyone's doubles ever.
no doubt.
Like full double flip switch. That Andy Wright photo is fire.
Like I actually, I was looking at it and I was thinking about it, because when I think about like my like initiation off the jump and everything, like I don't know how I would do it like that. Like, because he almost did like a front cork and then a front
roll.
flip. Yeah,
He did a
and
front
I'm like,
4-5 to barrel roll, which we all know he's got the switch barrel roll. So,
but like I could never do it like that ever, you know. Jason Murphy's like Murphy flip, like that back 270 to front flip. I think he was trying. This was one of the things, like as soon as because when I was a kid with my friends, were like, oh, that was wild. Like what trick is that? And like, we always called it the Murphy flip. And then I asked JP and Jeremy after I got to know him, I'm like, hey, what trick was he doing? What was that? And they were like, oh, he's trying to do a backside rodeo off the jump. And he did like this like backside 270 to like late front flip. And I was like, oh, me and my friends are out there trying to like do that. We're trying to like figure out how to do it, you know? And you can imagine how that went off of a small jump.
oh man. I mean, on that note, thank you for coming on the podcast, John, and thanks for setting aside some time. I've been trying to do this for a while with you because, I mean, similar to JP's impact, man, like I can't tell you. I mean, it's important to tell people that you've drawn a lot of inspiration from, to like give them the pat on the back, because I mean, you've moved on to a new chapter. Life's crazy. Am I going to see you again? I don't know. So like, you put in so much hard work into snowboarding, and just for me and my friends and my community, it's like we drew so much inspiration from what you and how you rode your board and just everything, your kits. My friend Anthony literally dressed like you head to toe. He was just trying to look like John, which is so sick looking back on that. It's like, that's the biggest
so
props
cool.
ever. You know what I mean? Like if somebody's literally dressing like you head to toe, it's like, you know what I mean? That's like, damn, they're about that. And you did that for a lot of kids. So, I mean, thanks for your work on the board, and thanks for coming on the show, man.
Thanks so much. Sorry. I'm like hit or miss on getting back.
I'm not worried about it at all, man.
But I appreciate it. It's been fun. And it's been fun like stopping and thinking about this, because a lot of this I haven't really thought about for a while.
That's why we needed you on, dude. We needed the stories, and you've provided. Far exceeded my expectations. So I'm very excited for this episode to come out.
Hell yeah, dude. Thanks so much for having me.
Yeah. Okay. On that note, peace. Thanks again.
All right. See you, dude.